Chapter 35. Mu Yin casually bandages her wound. Then she gets up and holds Xiao Bao's hand as she looks around. She sees that this place is completely different from the cave just now. It's like an abandoned palace. The reason why it's abandoned is because the entire palace is covered in dust, and there are many places with cobwebs. Tables, chairs, and stone benches are overturned on the ground, and there are also many wine glasses that have been smashed on the ground, forming cobwebs. Even in various places in the room, there are several corpses that have already turned into skeletons. Looking at the twisted and broken appearance of those skeletons, one can imagine the pain these people suffered before they died. Looking at this desolate palace, Mu Yan's heart surges with an inexplicable sense of desolation. She feels as if she's looking at the scene of a flourishing dynasty collapsing. But it's only for a moment, and she throws it to the back of her mind. If there's anything special about this palace, it's that it's filled with musical instruments. That's right, all kinds of musical instruments. There's pipa, guzheng, guqin, xiao, flute, esi, sun, sheng. Any musical instrument that Mu Yin has seen before can be seen here. It's just that some of these instruments are already very shabby, some are bright and beautiful, and there are even a few that faintly exude a frightening aura that makes people's hearts tremble. Mu Yin remembers what the gentle female voice said, the inheritance of the godly musicians. She's never heard of the godly musicians in the Yinwu continent before. Now, it seems that this inheritance should be a musician, right? In the Yinwu continent, there are also ancient warriors who major in musicians. Using internal force into a musical instrument can disturb a person's mind in battle, and when cultivated to the extreme, the sound waves can also hurt people. There are even musicians who can use music infused with internal force to soothe a patient's mind, so that the patient can recover sooner. But in general, musicians are only an auxiliary profession. In the Yinwu continent, where the strong are respected, there aren't many people who major in musicians. As Mu Yin is thinking, she sees Xiao Bao striding with his short legs, carrying a snow-white rabbit over. Nyangqin, here, stir-fried rabbit meat. The little guy hands over the fat rabbit, as if he's asking for praise. Mu Yin picks up the fat rabbit, but finds that it's sleeping like a dead pig, and doesn't feel anything when it's being strangled. She can't help but be curious. What happened to it? Did it get hurt when it fell off the cliff? Xiao Bao shook his head. The rabbit swallowed the bad woman's egg and fell asleep? Mayan stares blankly. She waits for Xiao Bao to finish saying that the fat rabbit has swallowed the holy beast egg that Gong Qinxue has tried every possible means to make a contract with. For a moment, she doesn't even know how to make an expression. In his previous life, after Gong Qinxue contracted a holy beast, she was in the limelight for a while. In this life, in order to save Xiao Bao, she fell off the cliff. She thought that there was no way to destroy Gong Qinshue's plan. He didn't expect that the sacred beast egg was actually swallowed by this fat rabbit. After a long time, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hey, stupid rabbit, looks like you're not completely useless, right? All right, seeing that you've made a great contribution, we won't eat stir-fried rabbit meat. As she said that, Mu Yin hugged the rabbit's fluffy body and rubbed against it. She felt that the smooth and soft touch was really not bad. When Xiao Bao saw this scene, he couldn't help but tighten his little face. He hugged Mu Yin's thigh and raised his little face to look at Mu Yin. Chapter 36. Xiao Bao nodded obediently and held the snow-white rabbit in his arms. Nyangqin said it was stir-fried rabbit meat, then it was stir-fried rabbit meat. Nyangqin said it was his Ling pet, then it was his Ling pet. What Nyangqin said was right. Mu Yin, however, looked at the rabbit with a deep and serene gaze. To be able to swallow a sacred beast egg without indigestion, it seemed like this was no ordinary rabbit. His son's luck was really too heaven-defying. He had randomly picked up a rabbit, and it turned out to be even more powerful than a saint beast. As she was thinking, a gentle female voice suddenly sounded in her mind. The second trial of the god musician's inheritance begins. Within half an hour, you need to choose from among the musical instruments in this palace a musical instrument that belongs to the Shun musician inheritance. If you choose the wrong one, all living beings in the space will die. If you choose the right one, you will enter the third inheritance trial space. The countdown begins now. Mayan is startled. Shin musicians inherited musical instrument? There were at least a few hundred musical instruments placed everywhere in the palace. There was not even a direction to choose from. How was she going to choose? Suddenly, her eyes fell on the twisted skeletons, and her pupils shrank. It turned out that these skeletons did not belong to the previous owner of the palace. Instead, it's those who have entered the Shun musician's space of inheritance, but ultimately failed the trial. Because there was a musical instrument beside each of the skeletons. Therefore, if he made the wrong choice, he would end up like them. Most importantly, he would lose his son, Xiaobao. Mayan frowns. She really wants to withdraw from this damned Shen musician inheritance, but this palace is obviously a closed space. Even if she wants to retreat, she can't. Mother, what's wrong? Xiaobao raised his head and asked. Mayan presses her temples and says, Yang Qin is currently undergoing an assessment to find a Shen musician heritage instrument among so many instruments. But Yang Qin doesn't have a clue right now. Xiaobao said, Oh. He tilted his head and asked, Is it the most powerful musical instrument? I think so. As soon as Mu Yan's voice falls, Xiaobao runs to a corner of the room with his short legs. He kicks away more than a dozen worn-out zither and digs out an even more worn-out one from the inside. Then, he drags it over to her, huffing and puffing. Mayan is flabbergasted, and a gentle female voice immediately rings in her mind. You have chosen the inheritance musical instrument, confirm or deny. If he did not put down his instrument after the countdown of 3, it meant that he had made his choice. 3, 2. Xiaobao, quickly put it down. Mu Yan's expression suddenly changed, and he pounced towards his son like lightning. But in the end, it's still a step too late. In his mind, the final voice counting down to 1 appears, inheritance musical instrument selected. The second trial of the Shin musician inheritance has ended. The trial result is, Mu Yan hugs Xiaobao tightly in her arms and closes her eyes. At this moment, he could only resign himself to fate. However, in the next moment, she hears the gentle female voice pause for several breaths before announcing the result. The result of the trial is success. Now, the third Shin musician inheritance space will be opened. The scene in front of him changed once again, but Mu Yan was too lazy to pay attention to it. She looked at Xiaobao with a dumbfounded expression, then looked at the tattered zither in his little hand. Xiaobao, do you know what zither this is? Xiaobao shook his head. Mu Yan, then why did you pull it out? Xiaobao thought for a moment, then said, Because it's the strongest. Chapter 37. The wood on it is tattered. There's not the slightest bit of pressure or internal force coming from it, and several of the strings are even broken. How does her family's Xiaobao know that it's strong? Listening to Mayan's question, Xiaobao is also puzzled. In the end, he can only say, Xiaobao just knows that it's very strong. Mayan holds Xiaobao in one hand, and the tattered zither in the other. She can't help but lament. Those people who died in the second inheritance space, they probably wouldn't have thought that the Shun musician's inheritance instrument, which sounds very grand, would actually be such a broken zither. This isn't a broken zither, but the most precious treasure of heaven and earth that could move unhindered across the 3 realms and make all living things bow in submission. The Tian Emochin. The familiar female voice suddenly rings out again, answering the question in Mayan's heart. But this time, the female voice is no longer gentle. Instead, it has a deep and suffocating sense of oppression that comes from experiencing the vicissitudes of life. Mayan looks down at the broken zither in her hands, speechless. Although she has never heard of the Tian Emochin, the name alone is cool and domineering. Not to mention the prefix move unhindered across the 3 realms and make all living things bow in submission. But the zither in her hands is extremely broken. Every time she fiddles with it, rotten wood shavings will fall down. Something that no one would buy even if it was sold is actually a precious treasure of heaven and earth? Mayan expresses her serious doubts. However, she doesn't dwell on the Tian Emochin. Instead, she narrows her eyes and asks, Who are you? What is this place? The female voice slowly says, This is the Shun musician's third inheritance space. If you want to know who I am, then go through the third trial. If you succeed, I will tell you my identity. If you fail, I will obliterate you and the little fairy's body and soul. Now, are you ready? Wait a minute. When Mayan hears that her son will be obliterated if she fails, her face immediately changes. I didn't say that I wanted to accept the inheritance. Hee. Since you are fated to come in and have chosen the Tian Mo-chin, then everything is beyond your control. The third trial of the Shun musician inheritance begins. As soon as the voice falls, Mayan feels the world spinning, and everything around her disappears without a trace. She has been sent to a strange space. There were no doors or windows in sight. No matter where one looked, there was only endless darkness. Not far ahead, there was a glowing light, like a candle flame. However, when Mu Yin wanted to approach the light, he discovered that it was very far away from him. Mu Yin tightly knit her brows. Her heart was already in a perilous situation. From the very beginning, she discovered that the inheritance of this Shan musician is very powerful. In the Yinwu continent, who can change the space at will, and who can play with these Yinwu practitioners with mysterious energy in the palm of their hands and kill them easily. In her previous life, Mu Yin had already reached the peak of the pre-celestial realm. She was only a step away from undergoing the thunder tribulation to refine her body and soul. At that time, she already knew that there was a world above the Yinwu continent that was much more powerful than the one she knew. Gong Qinxue had ruthlessly schemed in every possible way for the sake of being able to call the wind and summon the rain after she ascended to that world. Mu Yin also knew that the people in that world were not ancient martial arts practitioners, but cultivators who had the ability to fly and burrow into the ground. So, the master of this Shun musician inheritance is a cultivator from the upper realm? Chapter 38. A light turns into a sword blade, and like lightning, it flies towards her. Mu Yin wants to dodge, but she can't move faster than the sword blade. There's a sharp pain in her chest, and the fluorescent sword blade suddenly enters her body, disappearing without a trace. A moment later, an intense burning pain spreads from her chest to her limbs and bones. Mu Yan's complexion is as pale as paper, and fine beads of sweat fall from her forehead. When the searing pain was about to melt her bones, she felt as if her bones were about to melt. Mu Yan couldn't bear it any longer. She kneels down on one knee, and a muffled groan of pain comes out of her mouth. But it's only one sound. Afterwards, she clenches her teeth. Even if she bites her lips until they're bloody, she doesn't let out a single moan. What a stubborn little girl. The gentle female voice, with a low sigh and appreciation, echoes in Mu Yan's mind. I actually appreciate your stubbornness. You being able to enter this cave proves that you have the blood of our Shun musician clan in your body. But if you want to control the Tian Mo-chin, just having the blood isn't enough. Only a strong enough spirit and a rich enough bloodline can make the Tian Mo-chin recognize you as its master. If you can't get through this, in order to not expose the existence of the Shin musicians, I can only kill you and the little guy by your side. But I hope that you can succeed. That gentle female voice keeps ringing in Mu Yan's ears, as if to encourage her, and also as if to describe a bright and beautiful future for her. At the same time, the pain in her body is getting more and more intense. At this moment, it's no longer the pain of her bones and flesh, but the tearing and grinding from the depths of her soul. Mu Yin can no longer hold on and falls to the ground, her body curling up like a shrimp. Her ears are buzzing, as if she can hear the sound of her blood boiling, and the crisp sound of her bones breaking inch by inch. The human body can't bear the pain, and her instincts are urging her to faint. A voice keeps saying in her ear, "Give up, go to sleep. As long as you sleep, you won't be in pain, you won't be tired, and you won't have to bear all kinds of suffering in this world." Mu Yin really feels that she can't hold on any longer. But at this moment, she hears the hoarse cry of a child, "Nyang Qin, Nyang Qin, come back." That voice was filled with a sobbing tone. Her Xiaobao had been so well behaved since she was young. She had a cold expression on her face and didn't like to cry or laugh. Yet, she knew how to take care of her Xiaobao. Her son had never cried like this before. How could she fall asleep? How could he leave Xiaobao alone in this world? Mayan abruptly opens her eyes, using the Tian Imo-chin to support her body. She slowly climbs up, maintaining a kneeling posture on one knee. The pain did not lessen in the slightest, but Mu Yan's opened eyes became brighter and brighter, as if there was a raging fire burning inside. The fingers on the Tian Imo-chin dig into the rotten wood because of the pain. His skin and flesh were pierced, and fresh blood flowed down the wound, winding through the lines on the tattered sleeves of the zither. The gentle woman's voice rings in his ear again. If you can endure it and obtain the Shen musician's inheritance, you will be able to move unhindered in the three realms. So noisy, Mu Yin said in a hoarse voice, interrupting the gentle female voice's incessant persuasion. Chapter 39. Blood is clearly flowing from the corners of her lips, and the pain is like a tarsal maggot baring its fangs and brandishing its claws inside her body. But at this moment, Mayan is like a high and mighty queen, looking down on everything between heaven and earth, and no one can stop her. I don't care about the three ranks, I don't care about the inheritance of the Shen musicians. But in this world, if anyone dares to separate me from Xiao Bao, I will destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth, and I will not rest until I die. As she speaks, Mayan tilts her head to look at the tattered zither in her hand and says, Tian Imo-chin, I don't know how glorious you were in the past, but today, either you recognize me as your master and let me return to my son's side, or I will perish together with you. The gentle female voice sighs softly. That is the Tian Imo-chin. It's not something you can threaten. Before she can finish, she abruptly stops. That's because she sees Mayan's fingers digging into the sound of the zither. The Tian Imo-chin is no longer like a piece of rotten wood. Instead, it's glowing with a red light. As the red light on the zither becomes brighter and brighter, the blood that Mayan left on the zither is completely absorbed, and the few remaining strings begin to vibrate violently. The chilling and exciting music rings out, and the surrounding space begins to fluctuate violently. Even the gentle female voice could no longer remain calm. Heavenly Demon Resonance. She actually triggered the Heavenly Demon Resonance. Even I couldn't do it back then. Just how hot is this woman's blood, and just how strong is her mind? There's a loud bang. The dark space completely collapses, and the red light on the Tian Imo-chin also disappears without a trace. Mayan can't hold on any longer, and she's about to fall. But just as she's about to fall, she suddenly hears Xiao Bao's mournful cry, Nyang-chin. Mayan's mind suddenly tightens, and she props herself up to not fall. Instead, she raises her head and opens her eyes. Xiao Bao? Nyang-chin. Xiao Bao can't bear it anymore and bursts into tears. He throws himself into Mayan's arms and tightly hugs her, unwilling to let go. The child, who is usually as cold as a little poker face, is now crying like rain, and his little body keeps shaking in her arms. Mu Yin was so distressed that she even completely forgot about the exhaustion and pain all over her body. She hugged her son tightly and comforted him softly. Xiao Bao, don't cry. Look, isn't your mother fine? Mother said that she wouldn't abandon Xiao Bao and that she would be with Xiao Bao forever. Xiao Bao raised his tear-stained little face. His blue eyes were like the washed sky, clear and beautiful. He looked at her without blinking, as if he was afraid that she would suddenly disappear. Mother, are you in pain? Mu Yin shook her head and said with a smile, Nyang-chin doesn't feel any pain. Moreover, I just got a treasure. Saying that, she presents the Tian Imo-chin to Xiao Bao like she's presenting a treasure. Just now in the inheritance space, she saw the Tian Imo-chin light up with her own eyes, and then turn into a scarlet treasure emitting a bright light. It's clearly just a zither, but the domineering and disdainful pressure it's emitting makes Mayan, who can't help but gasp in surprise, even though she's in severe pain all over her body. Because that zither was too beautiful, and it made people yearn to own it. This is the real Tian Imo-chin, the one that can move unhindered in the three realms, the most valuable treasure of heaven and earth that everyone covets. Mu Yin couldn't wait to show the zither to her son and let him hold the treasure and play with it. Chapter 40. That's because the Tian Imo-chin that had clearly become incomparably eye-catching in the inheritance space has now turned into a black piece of rotten wood. Oh, it's still better than rotten wood. In the end, the body of the chain has become smooth and flat, and the broken strings are automatically connected. And what's very strange is that on the leftmost corner of the chain, her name is automatically engraved, June Mayan. It's just that these 3 words are very small, and the engraving isn't very clear. If one doesn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it. Now that Mayan is holding this chain in her hands, others would think that it's an ordinary, unremarkable 7-string chain. They wouldn't show a look of disdain and disgust, treating this chain as trash. However, Mayan has seen the radiant true appearance of the Tian Mo chain. How could she be reconciled with this, and gloomily says, "What's going on? Wasn't it clearly very beautiful just now? How did it turn into this tattered appearance now?" Xiaobao sees that his mother is really fine, and her spirit is getting better and better. Even her complexion has become rosy, and he breathes a sigh of relief. He pushes the Tianmo chain aside, nestles into Mayan's arms, and says in a low, muffled voice, "Xiaobao only wants Nyang Qin, not the chain." Mayan immediately hugs her baby son, and says with a smile, "Imin, Nyang Qin only wants Xiaobao, not the chain." The Tianmo chain, the most valuable treasure of heaven and earth, Tianmo chain. Can its new master still be good or not? Cough. The Tianmo chain hasn't returned to its original state because it was sealed and hasn't been unsealed. Just as Mayan and Xiaobao are hugging each other, the gentle female voice finally can't help but speak. "Congratulations, you have become the master of the Tianmo chain, and also the sole successor of my god musicians. I also want to congratulate myself. 1,000 years, I have waited here for 1,000 years, and finally, this day has come. The inheritance of my god musicians will not be completely cut off." Mayan releases Xiaobao, looks at the empty space, and says with a frown, "Now can you tell me who you are? Moreover, you said that I am the successor of your god musicians. Don't tell me you won't even show your face?" As soon as her voice falls, the shadow of a woman slowly appears not far in front of her. The woman was dressed in white. Her appearance was elegant, and her temperament was otherworldly. She looked to be in her early 20s, but her eyes were filled with endless vicissitudes of life. "My name is Bailey Yinlu, a Shen musician, and also the last Zhang musician of the god musicians." The woman's gentle voice slowly asks, "Do you know about Shen musicians?" Mu Yin shook her head. "I've only heard of musicians." "Yes, how do you know about the Shen musicians?" Bailey Yinlu shows a mournful expression. "Isn't this their purpose? They want the world to have no more Shen musicians, and no one to know of the existence of Shen musicians. Otherwise, if those people knew that the inheritance of the Shen musicians was still preserved, I'm afraid they wouldn't even be able to sleep in peace. Are Shen musicians very powerful?" "Hee. You asked me if Shen musicians are very powerful?" A mocking smile appears on Bailey Yinlu's face. The Shen musicians were once the most powerful existence in the world. However, it was precisely because it was too powerful that it caused others to panic. Therefore, those despicable people joined hands to plot against us and destroyed our entire god musicians. Chapter 41. When Bailey Yinlu said this, 2 lines of tears rolled down from her eyes. There was hatred and unwillingness in her eyes, but more than that, there was longing and loneliness. Mu Yan's frown deepened. She pulled Xiaobao closer to her bosom. "So you're a ghost now?" "No, I'm just a strand of Bailey Yinlu's spiritual will." She sighs softly. "Back then, I personally promised my people that I would continue the inheritance of the Shen musicians. This is the only wish of all the dead souls of godly musicians. Even if I die, I must complete it. After 1,000 years, I thought I wouldn't be able to wait any longer. I didn't expect that I would finally be able to wait for you." Mu Yin raises an eyebrow and says, "You mean, I am the Shen musician successor that you have chosen?" "That's right. In the past 1,000 years, you are the only one who has passed the inheritance spaces trial and finally obtained the Tianmo chain's recognition as its master. But why should I accept your inheritance?" Mu Yin said unhurriedly. Bailey Yinlu is stunned. "Do you know how powerful the Shen musicians are? If you obtain the inheritance of the Shen musicians, you will be able to dominate the 3 realms. But aren't you also the target of public criticism? Mayan sneers, receiving your inheritance also means that one day in the future, I will become the target of many experts. Bailey Lu sneered, are you afraid? Her expression is full of ridicule, but Mu Yin smiles and admits it without any psychological burden. Yes, I'm scared. So, please take back your inheritance. As she spoke, Mu Yin glanced at Xiao Bao, and a gentle light appeared in her eyes. For the sake of revenge, she would certainly not hesitate to accept the inheritance of the Shun musician. However, now that she had Xiao Bao, it was impossible for her to put all of her energy into hatred. If he accepted the inheritance and became the target of those unknown and terrifying experts, what would he do if he implicated Xiao Bao? Bailey Lu choked on Mu Yan's reply, but when she saw Mu Yan's gaze on Xiao Bao, her heart moved. Are you afraid of implicating this little fairy by your side, so you're unwilling to accept the inheritance? Then I advise you to accept it. What do you mean? Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. In this Yinwu continent where there is no spiritual energy, an immortal body cannot live past 10 years of age. Even if he goes to the upper realm of the Yinwu continent, he would only be able to struggle at death's door for another 2 or 3 years. Mu Yan's expression abruptly changed. Her gaze towards Bailey Lu was no longer lazy and casual, only leaving a cold chill. Speak clearly. The immortal spiritual body is the purest spiritual body in the world. If he was in the Xiaoxian continent, his cultivation speed would be 100 times faster than others. But in the Yinwu continent and Xiaoxian continent, where the spiritual energy is heterogeneous and even barren, he will only decline day by day until he dies. Bailey Lu stared at Mu Yan's eyes and said word by word, I don't know how such a pure immortal physique could exist in such a lowly continent, but you should know that I'm not lying, and I don't need to lie to you. Accepting the Shun musician's inheritance and truly controlling the Tian Mo Qin is the fastest way for you to ascend to the Xiaoxian continent. Mayan tightly purses her lips, her hands slightly clenching at her sides. Xiao Bao seemed to feel her nervousness and struggle, so he couldn't help but raise his head and call out softly, Mother. Chapter 42. Xiao Bao's little face was taut as he slowly nodded, but his eyes were especially bright. As long as Xiao Bao is with Mother, everything is fine. The corners of Mayan's mouth slightly tilts up, her beautiful face once again revealing a languid and leisurely smile. She looked at Bailey Lu and said, I accept the Shun musician inheritance. Bailey Lu is stunned once again. Aren't you going to ask how many secret manuals and treasures there are in the Shin musician inheritance? Don't you want to know who our godly musician's enemies are, or who might be your enemies in the future? Mayan chuckles, ridicule in her eyes. I want to ask, but do you still have time to explain it to me? Bailey Lu stares blankly, then she shows a helpless and admiring smile. June Mayan, you're really an astonishingly smart woman. If it's you, maybe you really can succeed. One day, maybe our god musicians will be able to see the light of day again. As she spoke, Bailey Lu's figure became more and more faint. The reason why Mu Yin asked this question was because she felt that the inheritance space was becoming more and more unstable, and it was obvious that it was about to collapse. This was also the reason why Bailey Lu had been encouraging her and chattering nonstop during her third trial. Because if she doesn't succeed, the Bailey Lu will no longer be able to maintain the existence of the space, and the inheritance of the Shun musicians will also be severed. Bailey Lu sighs softly. Her voice is filled with relief, reluctance, and expectation. The Tian Mo Qin has its own space. The treasures left behind by the god musicians, as well as the notes I left you, are all inside. There is one thing you must remember. The Shun musician's most powerful skill can only be realized through the Tian Mo Qin. Therefore, if you want to become a true Shun musician, you must repair the Tian Mo Qin. How can the Tian Mo Qin be repaired? Space, map, coordinates. Bailey Lu's voice became more and more indistinct, and the image almost completely disappeared. As for the space that Mu Yin was in, it began to shake violently, as if it could collapse at any moment. Mu Yin picks up Xiao Bao with one hand and grabs the Tian Mo Qin with the other. The collapse of space became more and more severe. Everything in the surroundings seemed to have transformed into specks of light, gathering towards Mu Yan's body. Countless scenes appeared in front of Mu Yan's eyes. There was a cave where the sword energy and the sound of the zither were attacking, a dilapidated palace, all kinds of musical instruments. Then she heard the sound of the zither that kept changing its rhythm. All kinds of memories that didn't belong to her appeared in her mind. No, it's not accurate to say that it's a memory. It should be a cultivation method, a skill of a shun musician. The influx of a large amount of information made Mu Yan's face somewhat pale, and fine beads of sweat seeped out of her forehead. Xiao Bao's heart ached as he looked at his mother's pained expression. He wanted to say something, but he was afraid of disturbing his mother, so he could only gently wipe the sweat from her forehead. He instinctively knows that his mother can't be interrupted right now. After about a quarter of an hour, Mu Yan finally slowly opened his eyes and let out a long breath. At this time, the inheritance space also completely disappeared, and Mu Yan and Xiao Bao appeared in the pitch-black, dense fog forest. "Nyang Qin!" Xiao Bao cried out in surprise, his little hands tightly hugging Mu Yan's neck, unwilling to let go. Mu Yan kissed Xiao Bao's cheeks and said in a frivolous and joyful voice, "Xiao Bao, we've picked up a treasure this time." Little Treasure tilted his head and revealed a puzzled expression. Chapter 43. This appearance is really too cute. Mayan can't help but kiss him a few more times before saying, "That Aunt Bailey is right. The shun musician is really a powerful existence that defies the natural order. I can completely understand why those people want to get rid of the shun musicians. A shun musician has all the skills that ordinary musicians have. They can confuse people's minds, and they can also calm people's minds. But it also had all sorts of heaven-defying skills that ordinary musicians did not have. For example, the most basic zither sound blade could be used for single or group attacks. If one's cultivation reaches a certain level, in the face of thousands of soldiers and horses, a shun musician can annihilate them all in an instant with just a zither. Was it scary? But this was far from the scariest part. The sound of a shun musician's zither can not only attack and treat illnesses, but it can also be used to refine medicine, refine tools, and even accelerate the growth of drafts. According to the inherited memories, the sound of the zither can be incorporated into drafts or alchemy, and it can increase the properties of the medicine by several times. The poison, stimulated by the sound of the zither, scattered all over the sky. When it blended into the air, it could instantly destroy a city. Mu Yan swallows her saliva. For the time being, she doesn't want to search through the memories of other skills. Just this alone was completely beyond her imagination. Xiao Bao listens to Mayan's words and says as if it's a matter of course, "Nyang Qin is the strongest. The shun musician is barely worthy of Nyang Qin." Mu Yan is tickled by her own darling's partiality, and her fingers lightly touch the Tian Emo Qin. After receiving the inheritance memories, Mayan's mind automatically learns to control the Tian Emo Qin. There's a space inside the Tian Emo Qin, and the Tian Emo Qin that recognizes her as its master will automatically hide inside her body. Just as her slender fingers touch the body of the zither, with a thought, the worn-out zither disappears from Mayan's hand. Mayan chuckles. "Xiao Bao, do you want to go with Nyang Qin to an interesting place to take a look?" Xiao Bao hugs Mu Yan's neck and nods expressionlessly, but his eyes are bright. The big and small figures disappeared into the forest. The light in front of them suddenly brightens, and Mu Yan discovers that she and Xiao Bao have appeared in a huge world. Mu Yan never knew that such a magical thing existed. It was hidden in her body, but when it entered, it was a vast world. There were white clouds in the sky, green plains, and towering palaces. Xiao Bao is also very happy. Although he doesn't run like crazy, his eyes are constantly looking around while holding Mu Yan's hand. Just as Mu Yan was about to bring him to the palace with the words, "Demonic Palace," the space suddenly shook slightly. Suddenly, the air fluctuations outside are slightly shaken. Mu Yan frowned and said, "Xiao Bao, stay here obediently. Mother will go out and take a look." Although Xiao Bao really wanted to follow his mother, he obediently nodded in the end. What Mu Yan didn't know was that the moment she received the inherited memories, far away in the 9 heavens, in the world where the almighty cultivators lived, someone was startled. It's also because of his arrival that the beasts in the fog forest started to riot. so much so that even Mayan's space was affected. Xiao Bao, Ti Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, a trembling voice comes from the ground. The wheel of fate rotates, the inheritance of the Shun musician, Jun Shang. I'm afraid your destined daughter has appeared. The old man kneeling on the ground raised his head and looked at the man not far away. Suddenly, he stands up and walks out the door. The old man says in a trembling voice, Jun Shang, are you going to pick up the woman of destiny? Pick her up? The man's cold and handsome face shows a mocking smile. Ben Jun has never believed in destiny. Since he doesn't believe it, then he will naturally kill him. Chapter 44. As soon as Mayan comes out of the space, she hears a huge tremor coming from the ground. Mixed in with it are the terrifying roars of beasts and the shrill screams of humans. What's going on? Are all the strange beasts in the fog forest rioting? But why? Suddenly, Mayan feels something soft and warm at her feet. She looks down and finds that the white-furred rabbit has woken up. It's rubbing against her feet. Its round, pale red eyes are hidden under the white fur, and she can't see its emotions clearly. But the warm body sticking to her feet seems to be trembling. Scared? Mayan asks softly. The rabbit can't help but stick closer to her, and its body trembles even more. The corner of Mayan's mouth hooks up into a faint smile. She grabs the rabbit and throws it into the space. This is her son's pet and playmate. How can she casually let it die or be lost? As soon as she throws the rabbit in, the ground under her feet trembles even more violently. The roars of beasts and the huge tremors are getting closer and closer to her. Mayan frowns, grabs the hanging vines on the edge of the cliff, and nimbly climbs up. Following her mysterious energy, Mayan climbs to the top of the cliff after a few short breaths. Although the fog is still thick, she can still see the strange beasts frantically fleeing in all directions from her vantage point. There are also the humans who ran into the fog forest to look for treasures, but have now become the mud under the feet of the strange beasts. Suddenly, Mayan's face changes, and she turns around. She sees a pack of giant red-tailed wolves, half the height of a person, slowly appear behind her. 3, 5, 10, 100. In just a short moment, there are already hundreds of red-tailed wolves on the hilltop where Mayan is. Her expression is dignified, and she takes a step back. Squeaking sounds come from the bottom of the cliff. She turns to look and sees that the cliff she had just climbed up has already been covered by a dense pack of giant rodents. Mayan now has no way out, and there are pursuers behind her. But in this kind of desperate situation, the corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooked up into a faint smile, and his pair of eyes became even more romantic and charming. The next moment, Ruyu turns her wrist, and a gray and unremarkable zither appears in her hand. Her slender hands plucked the strings of the zither, and the sound of the zither was elegant and pleasant to listen to, lingering in the air. The exotic beast that was slowly approaching suddenly stopped in its tracks. The smile on Mu Yan's face deepens. Surrounded by enemies, at this moment when she had nowhere to go, she actually lifted the hem of her clothes and sat down in a carefree manner. A woo, a woo, a woo. The alpha wolf howled, its eyes turning red as it took the lead and pounced forward. Mu Yan's fingers curl up and move slightly. Clang! The red-tailed wolf in the air let out a mournful howl. A large hole had been pierced through its stomach, and blood splashed everywhere. The stench of blood in the air instantly triggered the ferocity of the exotic beasts. The red-tailed wolves and rodent rats let out bestial howls as they rushed forward, attacking Mayan. The corners of Mu Yan's eyes twitch, and the movements of her hands moving the strings suddenly quickens. Gong, shang, jiao, zhang, and yu. 5 different musical scales were arranged and combined, transforming into a murderous musical note that flowed out from her hands. Every note represented the activation of a wind blade. The mysterious energy contained in the wind blade could instantly kill a powerful red-tailed wolf. This is the Tian Emochin's most basic area of effect skill, Zither Soundblade. Chapter 45. This is the highest mountain in the fog forest. Above the mountain, in addition to the thick fog and cold, there's also the suffocating miasma. Ordinary humans, Even pre-celestial powerhouses don't dare to casually set foot in this area. But at this very moment, there are two figures standing on the summit, their expressions indifferent, like they're taking a leisurely stroll in a courtyard. Junshang. It seems that the strange beast's rampage alone won't be able to pose a threat to her. Hanyi glances at the handsome man beside him and cautiously asks, "Do you need this subordinate to make a move?" But when he looks, Hanyi stares blankly, because he's never seen this kind of expression on his Junshang's face. Those pair of eyes that are always cold and disdainful, those that don't put anything in the world in their eyes, now seem to light up with two raging flames. The gaze that's staring at the jungle below is so focused and blazing, like a beast that has found its favorite prey. Hanyi is somewhat dumbfounded. Is Junshang looking at the Shin musician heir? Was she his fated daughter? But this look in his eyes, it doesn't seem like a burden to be killed. Just as he's about to speak, the zither music below suddenly stops. Hanyi looks down and sees the woman in white sitting on the top of the cliff, surrounded by the corpses of wolves and rats. The cold wind whistles through the forest on a cold night, like a ghost's wail. Her snow-white clothes are splattered with scarlet, appearing strange and bloody. But when the woman raises her head, revealing her languid and gorgeous face, even with Han Ye's temperament of seeing beautiful women, he suddenly holds his breath, unable to conceal the amazement in his eyes. This woman, this is Junshang's destined woman. It's not that there aren't any women more beautiful than her in this world, but Hanyi has never seen a woman with such a temperament that could be as captivating as she is. Suddenly, the woman below gently plucks the strings of the zither, the corners of her lips, which appear pale due to excessive use of mysterious energy, gently hooks up. A sweet-sounding voice comes through the thick fog along with the sound of the zither. Your distinguished self has come from afar, causing the beast's rampage in the fog forest, yet you're watching the fire from the other side, not even showing your face. Isn't that too unkind? Hanyi sucks in a breath of cold air. Junshang, she's found us. But a woman from the mortal world, who doesn't even have the slightest bit of spiritual power, can actually discover their existence? How is this possible? However, before Hanyi could figure it out, the man beside him has already disappeared in a flash. Hanyi abruptly comes back to his senses and finds that his Junshang has already arrived in front of the woman in white. He promptly follows after her. Mu Yin looks up at the man who has suddenly appeared. The man's handsome face could make any woman in the world intoxicated and infatuated, especially those eyes. When they look down at her, the blue light flickers, making Mayan's heart skip a beat. It was the same dark blue as Xiao Bao's. But very quickly, the strange look in Mu Yan's eyes completely disappeared, and his brows slightly raised. Who exactly are you? What are you trying to do by causing these exotic beasts to rampage? The man lowered his head and looked at her deeply. The fire in his eyes danced as if he was looking at his prey. Mu Yin feels a trace of displeasure at being coveted and controlled. Just as she is about to speak, the man suddenly reaches out and grabs her chin. While Mu Yin is stunned, the man slowly bends down and lowers his head. His cold lips fall on Mu Yan's warm and soft lips. Chapter 46. A deep magnetic voice, mixed with a hint of huskiness, echoes in her ears, "You are mine." Mu Yan's eyes widen, her whole body stiffening. Hanyi, who's following right after, staggers, almost falling straight down from the cliff. Wait a minute. What is Junshang doing? He's kissing the destined woman? And he's even using the power of the oath. Wait, my Junshang Darren, didn't we come to kill? Who was it that said that the destined woman was troublesome, and that killing her would be good? Did he remember wrongly, or did Junshang Darren lose his memory? The man slowly straightens up, looking at the dazed girl below him. A soft smile flashes through his eyes. His fingers gently stroke the Tian Emochin below, and his fingertips touch the faint, almost invisible engraving of the name. As if making an oath, the man says it again. Jun Mayan mine. Mu Yin suddenly wakes up. Thinking of what just happened, she immediately flares up in anger. She raises her hand, wanting to ruthlessly slap him, But the moment she swings her hand, the figure in front of her disappears like an illusion. The top of the cliff is still cold and rustling, and corpses are everywhere, as if nothing has changed. However, there was still a different feeling left on his lips. Was everything that happened just now just her illusion? Just as Mu Yin is stunned, a figure suddenly flashes in front of her. Xiao Bao suddenly pounces into her arms, his little raised face taut. His sapphire-like eyes have a thick, "I'm not happy" written all over them. "Baby, what's wrong?" Mu Yin quickly asks. Xiao Bao rubs against Mu Yan's chest. Then he holds her face and kisses her on both cheeks. The ice-cold little milk voice loudly swears, "Nyangqin mine." Mu Yin, after that strange man who took advantage of her disappears, Mu Yin throws this person to the back of her mind and leads Xiao Bao back into the space. As soon as they enter the space, they see the white-haired rabbit lying on its back on the grass, sleeping soundly. That sleeping posture is completely unlike that of a rabbit, but more like a person. And looking at how the rabbit sleeps sweetly, occasionally nibbling on the grass on its side, it should be very satisfied with the environment in the space. The area of the space was really very large, especially this large lawn. Mu Yin felt that it could raise a large group of horses. Holding Xiao Bao's hand, he walked into the palace with the words, "Demonic Palace," written on it. Mayan discovers that this place is not so much a palace, but rather a treasury. The palace was ring-shaped and stood tall. Looking up, he saw bookshelves made of mahogany. Unfortunately, these bookshelves were all empty, with only a few tattered old books scattered around. On the other hand, the floor of the palace was littered with books that had been flipped open. There were even a few books that had their pages torn off and thrown everywhere. Mu Yin looked at the ridiculously tall bookshelves around her and was somewhat speechless. Fortunately, there weren't many books on them, otherwise, it would be a problem for her to take them down. "Mother," Xiao Bao called out softly, his handsome little face expressionless. "What are we going to do?" Chapter 47. Mayan's attitude towards her son has always been one of equal respect. She would never treat him as a child, hiding everything from him and letting him go play by himself. Although Xiao Bao is only 4 years old, he is talented and intelligent. Under Mayan's guidance, he has already recognized most of the characters. Sure enough, Xiao Bao hears Mayan's words and immediately nods. Xiao Bao will help Nyangqin. His little face was still as cold as ever, but his ice-blue eyes were sparkling, making him look exceptionally adorable. Thus, Mayan and Xiao Bao begin to sort out the books while looking for a way to repair the Tian and Mochin. Most of the books here were miscellaneous records that were of little use. There are also some that introduce refining and alchemy, but Mayan has never heard of the elixirs mentioned in them. She doesn't look at them carefully. She flips through them and finds no information about maps or repairing the Tian and Mochin, so she puts them back on the shelf. On the side, Xiao Bao's little face is taut as he earnestly flips through the books one by one. After flipping through one, he originally wants to look for another, but he finds a corner of a book faintly peeking out from under the shelf. Xiao Bao thinks for a moment, then he sticks out his little, and pulls the book out. That corner is actually a blind spot. Even if others deliberately look for it, they might not be able to find it. Mayan is completely unaware of this until she hears her son's low cry of surprise. "Baby, what's wrong?" Mayan thinks that Xiao Bao has encountered some danger and quickly looks over. She sees Xiao Bao looking up, his handsome little face full of confusion. "Nyangqin, Xiao Bao can't understand what's written in this book. What is a TV? What is a plane? What is time travel?" Mayan stares blankly and promptly takes the book from Xiao Bao's hands. After reading this book, even though Mayan has lived 2 lives, she can't help but sigh in her heart. No wonder the Shin musician clan is so powerful. That's because the founder of the Shin musicians, Bailey Luine, was like her, a person who lived 2 lives. Only, she was reborn, while Bailey Luine was a soul from another world, reincarnating in a person's body in this world. What's recorded in this book isn't some profound secret technique, but Bailey Luine's notes. It mentions some unimaginable things in the 21st century that Bailey Luine lived in, as well as her longing for her hometown. What made Mu Yin the happiest was that there was a map at the end of Bailey Liuin's notebook. There's a red dot on it, which is the place where Bailey Yinlu said she could find the way to repair the Tianamo Qin. Mu Yin puts away Bailey Liuin's notebook and places it on the bookshelf. She then picks up her son and kisses him on the cheek. "Thank you, Xiaobao. You found what Nyang Qin wanted. You really are Nyang Qin's little lucky star, ah." An imperceptible smile appeared on Xiaobao's face. Then, as if she had thought of something, her brows furrowed slightly. Hugging Mayan's neck, he kisses her on the cheek. "Xiaobao can help Nyang Qin. Mother mine." As soon as he said that, Mu Yin thought of that bastard who took advantage of her, and the roots of her teeth itched. But when he saw his son's cute, jealous look, he couldn't help but laugh. Yes, mother is little treasures, and little treasure is also mother's. Okay, above the ninth heaven, the Xiuxian continent. My lord, you're back. Chapter 48. Above the ninth heaven, Xiuxian continent. Junshang, you're back. As soon as the tall man enters, the people in the hall kneel on the ground. The old man raises his head and opens his mouth, wanting to ask something. But before he could speak, the man quickly leaves, leaving them with only a tall and proud back view. Han Yi, who comes in after them, is still in a trance, his footsteps unsteady. He feels that right now, he really needs space to calm down, to properly sort out what just happened. However, before he could disappear, he's surrounded by a group of people. The old man nervously says, "Han Yi, how did it go? Did Junshang really kill the woman of destiny? Did Junshang receive any backlash from killing the woman of destiny?" Another person anxiously says. Han Yi looks absent-minded as he looks at everyone, shaking his head. No backlash? The old man and everyone else lets out a sigh of relief. Who would have thought that Han Ye's complexion would turn green and white? After a long while, he squeezes out 4 words with a constipated expression. Junshang didn't kill her. Not only did he not kill her, but he also directly molested the woman of destiny. After molesting her, he hurriedly ran away. When his soul returned to his original body just now, he saw that Junshang's ears had turned red. Although his face is still taut, the cold air emitting from his body hasn't diminished in the slightest. But he swears that he really saw Junshang's ears turn red. Didn't kill the woman of destiny? The old man reveals a shocked expression. Is there someone in this world that Junshang can't kill? How is that possible? Quickly tell me what's going on. Han Ye's brain is a mess. He opens his mouth several times, wanting to tell the truth, but he still swallows it back. Because he feels that if he were to talk about what he saw, this group of people would definitely think that there's something wrong with his brain, or that he's just joking. Their Junshang is indifferent, cold, and callous. The women of the Xiuxian continent must think that he has a heart of stone, but there are still women who want to throw themselves into his embrace. How could he do such a frivolous thing? Unfortunately, their Junshang's thoughts are never shown on his face. How can he guess what Junshang really means? He also wants someone to tell him what it means, okay? Just as Han Yi is going crazy, the tall figure that just left suddenly reappears in the hall. Junshang. Everyone knelt down. The old man asked, "May I ask what Junshang wants me to do?" The man frowned slightly, his expression ice-cold, his voice powerful and resonant, passed down the order, completely erased the news of the Shen musicians' reappearance. Whether it's the Xiuxian continent or the Xiuxian continent, I don't want anyone to know that the successor of the Shen musicians has appeared. The old man was startled. Junshang? Do you understand? Ming understand. The old man was frightened by the man's sharp eyes and quickly responded. His heart was filled with doubts. What was going on? Didn't we agree to kill the successor of the Shen musician, the woman of destiny who will bring trouble to Junshang? How did it become a matter of erasing the news of the Shen musician's appearance? Junshang this. What exactly is he trying to do? Inside the space, Mu Yin briefly combed through the Shen musician's inherited memories, and then left the space with Xiaobao. Because there were many strange beasts in the fog forest, the profound energy fluctuations were also extremely unstable. If Mu Yin also stayed in the space, she would be affected, causing the space to become unstable. Chapter 49. Where else could there be more drafts than in the fog forest? Mu Yin holds Xiao Bao's hand as they leisurely stroll through the fog forest. She doesn't know if it's because of Xiao Bao's heaven-defying luck, but in just half a day, Mu Yin has gathered a lot of rare and precious drafts. Mayan is so happy that she hugs her precious son and kisses him several times. Just as he was about to put his son down, a loud bang came from behind him. The mother and son turned around at the same time and saw a bloody person falling from the cliff not far away. An indistinct voice came from above the high cliff. There's no need to chase after him. If he falls from here, he definitely won't survive. Haha, actually there's nothing to chase after. In this misty forest, even if he wants to find reinforcements, he has to be able to find them first. Let's go. Mu Yin narrowed his eyes, pulled Xiao Bao along, and walked in front of the man whose entire body was dripping with blood. Rather than calling it a person, it would be more accurate to call it a corpse, the kind that probably had one last breath left. However, when Mu Yin saw that most of the man was covered in blood, his pupils slightly shrank. This person turns out to be Liu Beiyu's bodyguard captain, a high-rank profound stage. Mother, Xiao Bao called out in a low voice. He looked towards Mu Yin, clearly recognizing the guard captain. Mu Yin puts her son aside and gently touches his head. Then, she takes out her silver needles and pierces them into the guard captain's acupoints. This guard captain's life force had been completely severed, and all the meridians in his body had been shattered. It was impossible to save him, but when Mayan's needle goes in, he slowly opens his eyes. A pair of blood-stained eyes, after a moment of confusion, reflects Mayan's appearance. That pair of dim eyes suddenly burst with dazzling light. Miss Mayan, I beg you. Save the third prince. Save. He is Gong. Gong Qianteng. Mayan's last breath is finally exhausted, and the guard captain closes his eyes and passes away. He should have been in extreme pain before he died, but at this moment, his blood-stained face revealed an expression of relief. It's as if he's certain that as long as he finds Mayan, His Highness will be saved. Mu Yin frowns, a cold light flashing in her eyes. Not only was it because something had happened to her chief disciple, but it was also because of the poison in the guard captain's body. Mu Yin recognizes at a glance that it is Jin Hongmin's unique poison, sky poison fantasy sand. Mother? Xiao Bao grabbed her hand, a questioning expression on his face. Are we going to save her? Mu Yin picks up Xiao Bao, the corners of her mouth curling up. Yeah, we're going to save your stupid junior brother. Although he's stupid, he's still the disciple that she, Mayan, recognizes. It wasn't something that anyone could touch as they pleased. What's more, the people who touched her disciple were Gong Qiantong and Jin Hongmin. In the depths of the dense fog forest. At this time, Liu Beiyu's shirt has been pulled off and he's hanging on a tree. His naked body is already covered with cuts and bruises. Even his initial Earth Realm cultivation aura had almost disappeared without a trace. His face that was covered in blood was filled with numbness and defeat. It was as if he had fallen into despair and didn't want to live anymore. Piak. Another whip landed on his body. The one holding the whip was a tall and thin old man in yellow clothes. Chapter 50. As His Royal Highness Qi Yin Country's third prince, are you really willing to become a waste from now on? Liu Beiyu slowly raises his eyes, his pale cracked lips revealing a sneering smile. Don't say that I don't know where Master is. Even if I knew, I wouldn't say it. If you have the ability, then kill me. In any case, Gong Qiantong will accompany me in death, so I won't suffer a loss. The old man frowns, about to speak, when suddenly there's a burst of painful moaning from the side. He sees a man lying on a rattan chair, his whole body festering, unable to move. He can't move at all from the waist down, and even his urine and feces have to be cleaned by others. The skin on his body is covered with black pustules, and as the pustules burst, rancid mucus flows all over his body. This person is Gong Qianteng. He was hit in the spine by Xiao Bao. Half of his body is paralyzed, and coupled with the poison, his whole body feels like it's being bitten by 10,000 ants. His whole person looks like neither a human nor a ghost. Compared to his previous handsome and elegant demeanor, it's like the difference between heaven and earth, the difference between clouds and mud. Even though the maid serving him at the side is trying her best to endure, she still shows a look of fear and disgust. Scram, scram, slut, you dare to neglect Bin Wang, I'll kill you. With that, Gong Qian-tong pulls out the guard's sword and directly beheads the maid. The maid doesn't even have the chance to groan before her head leaves the ground, and she breathes her last. Blood splatters all over Gong Qian-tong's face. Gong Qian-tong becomes even crazier. His crimson eyes fiercely stare at Liu Beiyu, and he hysterically roars, "Beat him to death. I must make him beg for death but can't. Chop off his hands and feet for me." Odd. The yellow-clothed old man contemptuously looks at Gong Qian-tong, but on the surface he respectfully says, "Second Prince, rest assured, we are under the orders of the sect master. We will certainly help you vent your anger." Saying that, he looks at Liu Beiyu, the corner of his mouth revealing a vicious smile, falling into our Jin Hongmin's hands. "Do you think it's that easy to die? When we cripple the tendons in your arms and legs, and your profound energy is completely corroded by the sky poison mirage sand poison, you will become a cripple without even the slightest bit of strength to resist. Then, we'll sell you to the dirtiest place in the Ghost City, the Wanren-ku. There, people with soft skin and tender flesh like you are the most popular, regardless of gender." At that time, the people in the cave of 10,000 people will have plenty of ways to make you obedient, even if Liu Beiyu's heart is already like dead ashes. Hearing these words, he fiercely raises his head and roars, "You dare? I am the third prince of Qi Yin country. You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me. Ha. In this world, there is nothing that our Jin Hongmin doesn't dare to do." With that, the sword in the hands of the yellow-clothed old man slashed through the air. Liu Beiyu immediately utters a cry of pain, his legs powerlessly hanging down. His hamstring was crippled. "So, are you willing to tell us the whereabouts of the mother and son?" The yellow-clothed old man unhurriedly says, "If you still don't speak, then it'll be your hand's turn next." At this moment, Liu Beiyu clenches his teeth, refusing to say a word. But in the end, tears of humiliation and despair fall from his eyes. Thinking that he, the dignified third prince, will be reduced to a slave that can be trampled on at will in Wanren-ku, he really wishes he could die immediately. Chapter 51. The sword in his hand is about to strike for the second time, when suddenly in the distance, there's a melodious and sweet sound of a zither. The sound of the zither is so beautiful that everyone present, including the subordinates of the yellow-clothed old man of Jin Hongmin, as well as Gong Qian-tong's guards and maids, all show an intoxicated expression. The yellow-clothed old man's heart thumps. He feels something is wrong and wants to sober up, but his mind is immediately attracted by the sound of the zither. That long, thin, horse-like face shows an intoxicated expression. When no one is aware, the sound of the zither suddenly changes from melodious and pleasant to listen to impassioned and austere. Suddenly, a guard picks up a knife and fiercely slashes at his companion. Blood splatters. "Kill you! Kill you!" An angry roar resounds in the crowd. Everyone's face shows a malevolent and distorted expression, as if they are possessed, recklessly slashing at the people around them. It's not until warm blood splashes on his face that the yellow-clothed old man suddenly comes to his senses. "All of you stop!" A roar containing heaven-grade mysterious energy comes out. The sound of the zither is interrupted in an instant, and it also makes the crazed people around stop fighting. Everyone's face shows a confused expression, as if they don't know what they just did. The yellow-clothed old man's face is very unsightly. He looks in the direction of the sound and coldly says, "Your Excellency's musical attack is so skillful. Could it be that you are a brilliant disciple of Fanning Palace? I don't know why you want to oppose my Jin Hongmin." Fanning Palace is the only sect in Yinwu continent that specializes in musicians. Because the sound attack just now was too powerful, the yellow-clothed old man guesses that it's a disciple of Fanning Palace. Not far away, the figure of a girl in white slowly walks out of the fog. Her clothes are still stained with blood. Her left hand is holding an unremarkable zither, and her right hand is holding a little baby carved from jade. She obviously doesn't have any makeup on, and her clothes are dirty and messy. But when they see the girl's raised face and that charming and moving color, everyone's eyes are unconsciously attracted, and they even forget to breathe for a moment. Mu Yin curls up her lips and faintly smiles. "Aren't you looking for me?" The yellow-clothed old man's pupils suddenly constricted. His gaze moved from Mu Yan's face to Xiao Bao, and dense killing intent flashed in his eyes. Was this the youngest heaven ranker that the sect leader had repeatedly urged them to eliminate? That day, Gong Qianxue's men chased him to the bottom of the cliff, but nothing appeared. Not even a drop of blood could be found. Later, she heard that the one who crippled Gong Qiantong was a 4 or 5-year-old child. Gong Qianxue immediately thought of the little brat who stole her sacred beast egg. Because she had something to do, Gong Qianxue had to leave immediately. That was why he had instructed the yellow-clothed old man to follow Gong Qiantong, saying that he would avenge him, but in fact, his real purpose was to find the mother and son, kill them, and take back the sacred beast egg. Seeing Mu Yin and Xiao Bao, Gong Qiantong screams, "Slut! Slut! You're the one who did this to me. Hurry up and capture her, as well as that son of a bitch beside her. I must skin that son of a bitch alive." Gong Qiantong hasn't finished speaking when Mu Yin gently plucks the zither strings. His mouth suddenly stops in the middle of cursing, and his face fiercely distorts. Immediately after, there's a clatter, and a red object falls out of his mouth, falling to the ground. Chapter 52. Everyone stares at it, only to find that the thing that fell to the ground is actually a tongue. Mayan Xiu's cold gaze returns from Gong Qiantong's face, revealing a leisurely smile, only spitting out 2 words, "too noisy." The yellow-clothed old man's complexion changes, gritting his teeth. "Your Excellency is really vicious and merciless." Mayan's fingers pluck the strings again, and the rope binding Liu Beiyu is instantly cut. At Mayan's side, Xiao Bao rushes out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he drags the bloodied Liu Beiyu to Mayan's side. He also takes out a draft and feeds it to Liu Beiyu. Liu Beiyu vaguely opens his eyes, seeing Mayan and Xiao Bao's figures. His eyes can't help but redden, choking with sobs. "Master, little brother, kill me, then run. I don't want to live as a cripple and be humiliated, and I don't want to implicate you. They are people from Jinhong Min, a famous assassin organization in Yinwu continent. I don't want to implicate you." Bang! Xiao Bao punches him, knocking him unconscious. His cold little face impatiently spits out 2 words, "too noisy." Mayan chuckles, looking at the yellow-clothed old man, unhurriedly saying, "When it comes to being vicious and merciless, how many people would dare to compare with Jin Hongmin? If there's a little dissatisfaction, you'll exterminate an entire family. Haven't you done it many times over the years?" The yellow-clothed old man proudly smiles. "It's good that you know. Offending our Jin Hongmin won't end well." Mayan hands the zither to Xiao Bao, picks up a sword from the ground, and smiles brightly. "Just in time. This is also what I wanted to say. Offending me won't end well." Although the person in front of him has a child, she looks no more than 17 or 18 years old. In the eyes of the yellow-clothed old man, she's just a silly little girl. If Mayan were to use the zither, he might still be afraid. But this girl wants to defeat him with a sword? Hee, simply a joke. An insignificant little girl dares to threaten this old man. You should know that this old man's cultivation has already reached high heaven stage. You have to pay the price for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. After a short time to drink a cup of tea, the yellow-clothed old man looks at the sword pointed at his neck, trembling all over, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Impossible. This is impossible. Xiantian, how could you be a Xiantian warrior? Who would believe that a teenage girl was a Xiantian realm martial artist? Who could believe it? How many pre-celestial practitioners are there in total in the Yinwu continent? Which one of them wasn't in their 70s or 80s, or even over 100 years old?" Gong Qianxue, a 22-year-old heaven-grade martial artist, was already enough to shock the world. But what if the name of this 18-year-old pre-celestial martial artist was spread? The old man's body shivers. He glances at the corpses of his men lying on the ground and tries his best to maintain his composure. Our Jin Hong Min is an assassin organization. We have always taken people's money to eliminate disasters. If Miss is willing to show mercy to me, Jin Hong Min will certainly repay Mrs. Kindness in the future. Oh? Mu Yin curled up the corner of her lips and said with a smile that was not a smile, "So you're saying you want to betray your employer and surrender to me?" Yes, yes. But what if your employer doesn't agree? Mu Yin glances at the panic-stricken Gong Qian, tongue sitting on the rattan chair. Chapter 53. Mu Yan's eyes reveal a look of interest. She withdraws the sword in her hand and crosses her arms over her chest as she looks at the yellow-clothed old man. The yellow-clothed old man grits his teeth and walks towards Gong Qian Tong with his sword. Woo 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 woo. Gong Qian Tong desperately wants to retreat, but his body can't move at all. Finally, the yellow-clothed old man's sword pierces Gong Qian Tong's heart. Afterwards, he doesn't stop moving. In just a few seconds, he has killed all of Gong Qian Tong's guards and maids. Wiping away the blood that splashed on his face, the yellow-clothed old man bows slightly and says with a humble face, "Like this girl should believe my sincerity? You can believe me. As long as you cooperate with our Jin Hong Min, you will certainly get unexpected benefits." Mu Yin slowly walks to Xiao Bao's side, touches his little head and chuckles. Worthy of being a member of Jin Hong Min, you could even kill your own sect master's elder brother so cleanly and efficiently. What? The yellow-clothed old man's complexion greatly changes. Just as he is about to say something, a sword suddenly comes flying towards him. He abruptly widens his eyes, wanting to dodge. But this sword that contains a powerful, mysterious energy flies in front of him like lightning, leaving him with no room to dodge. With a poochied sound, the sword pierces his neck, piercing through and firmly nailing itself to the trunk of a tree. Even as he dies, the old man's eyes are wide open, unable to react to what happened. Mu Yin puts the Tian Emochin and the unconscious Liu Beiyu into the space. She picks up Xiao Bao and floats away, her figure slowly disappearing into the thick fog. Only the woman's melodious voice echoes faintly in this bloody world, accompanied by the rustling of leaves. Cooperate with Jin Hong Min? Heh. Jin Hong Min will soon disappear from this world. What's there to cooperate with? Above the ninth heaven, Xiuxin continent. Han Yi has been very bitter these past few days, because he has shared the shocking scene he saw in the Yinwu continent with everyone, but none of his companions believe him. Elder Chong. Han Yi turns around and sees the old man standing silently behind him with a beautiful pink-clothed girl. His bitter face suddenly turns into astonishment. "You? Why are you here?" Elder Chong ignores him and walks towards Jun Shang's room with the pink-clothed girl. Wait a minute, Elder Chong. What are you doing? Don't you know that women are forbidden from entering Jun Shang's palace? Elder Chong glanced at him and said, "Weren't you the one who told me that Jun Shang wanted a woman? Since you want women, we naturally have to share Jun Shang's worries. How can we let Jun Shang be stifled?" Saying that, she doesn't wait for Han Ye's reaction. She leads the bashful and secretly delighted young girl to push open the palace doors and walk inside. Han Yi is immediately thrown into disarray by the wind. When did I ever say that Jun Shang had started eating meat? Hey! At best, Jun Shang only kissed her on the lips. He didn't even hold her little hand. How could he have started eating meat? However, the palace gate had already slowly closed in front of him. Han Yi swallows and says, thinking to himself, could it be that Jun Shang has really been enlightened? But at this moment, there was a sudden bang. The entire thick and heavy palace gate shattered into two halves and collapsed. Elder Chong and the girl in pink were kicked out along with the door. The girl in pink, who was still dressed up alluringly when she first entered, was now charred all over and looked battered. Chapter 54. Elder Chong shudders as he climbs up from the ground, glaring fiercely at Han Yi. This is what you said about Jun Shang having sex. Thinking of a woman? Han Yi, When did I say that? Ah. Hearing the noise, everyone also gathers around. Seeing the pink-clothed girl who has fainted on the ground in embarrassment, they all reveal expressions of schadenfreude. Jun Shang is still so heartless and callous, with a heart of stone. That's right, Hanyi. You still want to lie to us and say that Jun Shang has fallen in love with the woman of destiny. It's good enough that Jun Shang doesn't directly kill the woman of destiny. As they speak, a tall figure slowly walks out from the palace gate. Greetings to Jun Shang. Everyone respectfully kneels on the ground. But the man seems to not see them at all, walking straight towards the direction of the Qiankuan mirror. Han Ye's heart thumps. Jun Shang, you're going to the lower realm? And a cold word responds to him. Elder Chang can't help but ask, what are you going to do, Jun Shang? Why is he going to the Yinwu continent again? The man turns his head and coldly glances at everyone, spitting out 2 words in an icy tone. Propose. Bang, bang, bang. This is the sound of everyone's voices. Han Yi hurriedly gets up and follows behind the man. He looks back at Elder Chang and his companions, the corner of his mouth hooking up into a mocking smile. A bunch of stupid mortals. Lousy told you, but you didn't believe it. Now you believe it. Jun Shang is going to propose. Wait a minute. Propose? Jun Shang is going to propose to the woman of destiny? The dim candle flame swings in the dark night. In the candlelight, a slim and graceful figure is sitting by the window, looking down and reading something. Her jet-black long hair hung loosely from her temples and swayed gently with the breeze. It set off her snow-white complexion, dense and long eyelashes, and light-colored thin lips. She was like a meaningful, tranquil, and beautiful ancient painting. Liu Beiyu wakes up from the severe pain all over his body. He opens his eyes in a daze and sees such a breathtaking scene. The memories from before he fainted slowly came back to him. That feeling of oppression, suffocation, hatred, and despair instantly surged into his mind. He remembered watching his subordinates being killed one by Gong Qiantang and the people of Jin Hongmen. He remembered that he was hung up, his cultivation was slowly destroyed by poison, his tendons were cut off. There was also the melodious sound of the zither at the end, as well as the familiar sound that rang in his ears. The rims of Liu Beiyu's eyes slightly redden. He moves his lips and spits out 2 hoarse words, Master. He had never thought that the person who would come to save him in his most desperate moment would actually be the master he had just casually acknowledged. When Mu Yin heard his voice, she closed Bailey Liuin's notebook and turned around to walk over. How do you feel now? The woman's voice was clear, gentle, and calm. Liu Beiyu's originally bitter and painful heart slowly calms down. He originally thought that after returning to Qi Yin country, he would find a way to repay his master. But now, he had become a cripple. The only thing he could do was not to burden his master. Chapter 55. Hearing this, Mu Yin raises her eyebrows. She taps the book in her hand and says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Oh, so you don't need to help restore your cultivation and connect the tendons and veins in your legs? I've studied it for so long in vain. Well then, since you don't want to be treated, I'll send you." Wait a minute. Liu Beiyu snaps his eyes wide, saying in disbelief, "Master, what did you just say?" Mu Yin chuckles. "I didn't say anything." "No, Master. You said it. You said that you can restore my cultivation and connect the tendons and veins in my legs, right?" Liu Beiyu struggles to get up from the bed, his voice so excited that it's about to turn into a scream. There was originally no hope, so it's one thing to throw away the broken jar. But now, he sees hope in a hopeless situation. How could he calm down? Mu Yin is about to answer when the door to the room is pushed open. Xiao Bao's short and small body walks in. His handsome little face is cold and expressionless. He's carrying a food box that's half as tall as him, but he doesn't seem to feel the weight and burden at all. He easily walks to Mu Yan's side and looks up. "Nyang Qin, it's time to eat." Xiao Bao is so obedient. Mu Yin lowers her head and kisses her son's cheek. She takes out the food from the food box and places it on the table. Xiao Bao automatically sits at the table next to Mu Yin. He picks out the dishes that Mu Yin likes and says with a taut face, "Nyangqin, eat slowly." Even Liu Beiyu, who's full of hope, expectation, anxiety, and apprehension, can't help but be dumbfounded when he sees this scene. Hey, wait a minute. You mother and son are playing the wrong roles, right? Shouldn't Mu Yin be the one taking care of Xiao Bao's daily life, preparing his meals, and giving him his favorite dishes to eat? But why is it that everything has been reversed now? Xiao Bao is a 4-year-old child, yet he's taking care of his master meticulously and perfectly. What's going on here? Mas. Master, little brother, you? Liu Beiyu swallows his saliva, opening his mouth dryly. Mu Yin eats heartily as she says, "Xiao Bao, your brother hasn't eaten yet. Prepare a portion for him." With an expressionless face, Xiao Bao randomly picks a few dishes, brings a bowl of rice, and places it in front of Liu Beiyu. She didn't even bother to say, "Go ahead and eat." She just left him with a cold and elegant back view. After returning to his seat, he brings a plate of beef in front of Mayan and says in a childish voice, "Nyangqin, eat more." "Oh, Xiaobao should eat more too." Mu Yin gave her son a bright smile. Liu Beiyu is simply speechless. "Master, little senior brother, isn't this difference in treatment too big?" "Master, you said that you can cure me. Is that true?" Mu Yin takes a sip of her after-dinner tea and holds her son's soft and fragrant body in her arms. She says contentedly, "What's wrong? You don't believe me?" "No, no, no. I believe you. I believe you. I believe whatever Master says." Mu Yin puts down the teacup and opens her mouth again. "However, there is a problem." What problem?" Liu Beiyu's heart was suddenly lifted. The process might be a little painful. Liu Beiyu's hand that's supporting his body softens, and he falls on the bed with a thump. "Master, please don't tease this disciple anymore. I'm not even afraid of death. Why would I be afraid of pain?" Chapter 56. My good disciple, since you have this kind of awareness, then it couldn't be better. I, your master, was worried that I wouldn't have a place to practice. Hearing his words, Mayan's face finally shows a bright, beautiful, and satisfied smile, making her look even more beautiful and charming, bewitching people's minds. But Liu Beiyu doesn't know why, but when he sees her little face, he shudders. A bad premonition faintly rises in his heart. In fact, Liu Beiyu's sky poison fantasy sand isn't difficult to cure, and Mayan doesn't need to integrate the Shen musician skills. Just relying on her original attainments and medical skills, she could slowly remove the poison from Liu Beiyu's dantian in a few months' time. It's just that the process would be painful and long. The troublesome part is Liu Beiyu's severed hamstring. In the Shen musician's inherited memory, there is indeed a miraculous medical skill that can reconnect the tendons and veins, and even bring the dead back to life. But the conditions to achieve it are very harsh, and it requires the use of spiritual energy to activate the Tian and Mo Qi. Right now, Mayan only has internal force in her body. What is spiritual energy? She has never even heard of it, let alone using it. However, there's no such thing in the Shen musician's inherited memory, but Mayan found some relevant information in Bailey Liuin's notes. That's the 21st century where Bailey Liuin lived, that strange time and space, a kind of unimaginable medical treatment plan. Surgery. Liu Beiyu lies on the bed, full of apprehension, looking in Mayan's direction. She was fiddling with a strange-shaped knife, which she had found in the space, and was engrossed in reading a book. Liu Beiyu can't help but ask, "Master, what are you looking at?" "Oh, looking at the operating procedure." What operating procedure?" Liu Beiyu's face pales, the bad premonition in his heart intensifying. Mayan raises her head, a bright and beautiful smile appearing on her beautiful little face. "Master has never done this operation before, so I'm not very familiar with the operating procedure. So before the operation, I intend to consolidate the operating procedure. But you don't have to worry, Master has just tested it on a chicken leg. I believe there shouldn't be any problems. Consolidate the operating procedure before the operation. She's even tested it on a chicken leg?" Liu Beiyu's eyes go dark, and he says excitedly, Master, your disciple is a person, not a chicken leg. You must take it easy. This disciple only has this pair." Bang! Xiaobao punches down, and Liu Beiyu is immediately silenced. Expressionlessly, he raised his exquisite little face and spat out 2 words, too noisy. Mu Yin smiles and nods, her eyes full of praise. Xiaobao did the right thing. This way, Nyang Qin doesn't even have to anesthetize him. As she spoke, she kissed her precious son's face heavily. Little Treasure's eyebrows slightly curved, and his deep blue eyes were suffused with a luster as beautiful as the sky. An hour later, Liu Beiyu wakes up from the pain in his feet. He cried out in pain, and when he tried to move his legs, the pain made him bounce on the bed. But very quickly, the pain on his face was replaced by ecstasy. Master, my feet. I can feel my feet again. Did this mean that he wouldn't become a cripple again? Chapter 57. Liu Beiyu listens to Mu Yan's words, waking up from his surprise and excitement. Master, are you leaving? Maya nods, her light eyes are leisurely and carefree. All good things must come to an end in this world. But you killed the people of Jin Hongmin for me. They are very powerful in Qi Yin country and Jingcheng country. If the people of Jin Hongmin find you, they will definitely retaliate. Master, why don't you come back to Qi Yin Imperial Palace with me? I will definitely protect you. Mu Yin chuckles, who said I killed them for you. Liu Beiyu stares blankly, but he hears the clear and pleasant voice continue. Regardless of whether I have you or not, I will not let the people of Jin Hongmin go. Then, foolish disciple, we'll meet again someday. Xiaobao, let's go. Xiaobao immediately obediently stretches out his white and tender little hand, letting Mu Yin hold it. The mother and son no longer pay attention to the stunned and shocked Liu Beiyu and float away. Without waiting for Liu Beiyu to ask again, his figure has already completely disappeared outside the door. Xiaobao raises his head and looks at Mu Yin. He always feels that his mother's expression is a bit strange at the moment. That beautiful face still carries a charming and lazy smile, but there's a touch of dense coldness in those clear peach blossom eyes. Nyang Qin, where are we going? Xiaobao can't help but ask. Mu Yin lowers her head and smiles sweetly at her son. Nyang Qin is going to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Night has just fallen, and the sky is dyed with a misty gray. Located at the junction of Qi Yin country and Jingcheng country, this was originally a deserted suburb. But since 7 or 8 years ago, a tea house called Kuai Hua Lin has been built. Although it's called a tea house, the building covers a very large area. Inside, there are wine and food, beautiful women, gambling, and recreational activities. It attracts a lot of martial practitioners who are in a hurry to stop and spend money here. However, no one knows that this place that looks like a gold squandering den is actually the headquarters of Qi Yin country's #1 assassin organization, Jin Hongmin. Merry Forest is divided into inner and outer layers. The outer layer is the place for guests to indulge in ecstasy, while the inner layer is the place for Jin Hongmin's members to vent their frustrations after completing their tasks. At this time, on a square with a canopy covering the sky and a mat on the ground, dozens of bare-chested men were gathered together, letting out wanton and lewd laughter. In front of them, more than a dozen beautiful girls who had been fed drugs were tearing at their clothes in a daze. I'm in so much pain. Give me medicine. Give me medicine. The girl cried out in pain. Her clothes were torn to shreds, but her eyes were filled with pain and despair. The assassins of Jin Hongmin laugh even more proudly and wildly. Do you want medicine? Then obediently kneel on the ground and lick our feet. Ha ha ha. The young girls were extremely unwilling, but the effects of the medicine made them feel so much pain that they wished they were dead. Sparkling tears fell from their eyes, but they could only kneel down and crawl over like dogs to lick the feet of those killers. They were humiliated and humiliated like animals. The assassins laughed even louder. This was the favorite pastime of Jin Hongmin's men. They would kidnap innocent women and give them the addictive, rambling powder, making them abandon their nature and play with them like dogs. Chapter 58. Ha ha ha. Lu Lauer. You don't know. There are a few girls here, and they're all daughters of noble families. When they were caught, They behaved like chaste women, but in front of the peripatetic powder, they still turned into this cheap appearance. Saying that, the killer grabbed the girl's chin at his feet and proudly said, "Dog thing, don't you think so?" The girl's face dripped with tears of despair, but she couldn't suppress the moans that overflowed from her mouth that made her want to die of shame. Just then, suddenly, something fell from the sky. Pink petal-like things fell to the ground, falling on the faces and bodies of the killers. What's going on? Is it raining? That's not right. This seems to be petals? But there are no flowering trees around the square. How could there be petals falling? Everyone was surprised, when suddenly the melodious sound of a zither came from the distant horizon. The tinkling sound was like pearls and jade falling on an ice plate, or like a gurgling stream caressing the mountains and rocky streams. The sound of the zither got closer and closer, becoming more and more mellow and moving. From high mountains and flowing water, it slowly turned into a soft and gentle voice. The faces of the killers of Jin Hong Min revealed an intoxicated expression, their eyes blurrily looking in the direction of the sound of the zither. Petals sprinkled down, falling faster and faster, more and more, almost covering every part of the killers' bodies. Suddenly, someone saw a snow-white figure gracefully descending from the roof among the fluttering petals. The cool breeze billowed the snow-white clothes, setting off the girl's jade-like, crystal-clear complexion and gorgeous and elegant facial features, stunning the killers below. Someone slightly opened his mouth, not noticing the drool dripping down from the corner of his mouth. Someone pushed away the ravaged girl in his arms, murmuring, "Beauty. I want this beauty." The girl in white finally landed on the ground, her hair slightly fluttering, the petals scattering, the corners of her mouth holding a slight smile, like a beautiful fairy from the ninth heaven, suddenly mistakenly descending into the mortal world. Gulp! Someone swallowed his saliva, his eyes bulging and faintly reddening. Someone couldn't help but stagger over, his perverted hand reaching out towards the girl's delicate and flawless face. The smile on the white-clothed girl's face deepened, and her jade-like fingers lightly plucked the strings of the zither. With a bang, the assassin closest to the white-clothed girl exploded like fireworks. In an instant, a dazzling red mist of blood bloomed from his body, and he fell straight down. This sudden change instantly woke up the assassins who were engrossed in it. Someone couldn't help but exclaim, "Who are you? How dare you?" The zither strings vibrated, and pong! There was another sound, and the body of the person who spoke exploded again. Just like the previous person, there was not a single part of his body that was unscathed, and in the blink of an eye, he had become a mangled corpse. "You, who exactly are you? Why? How did she kill them?" "It's flower petals. The flower petals stuck to our bodies are special drafts. Hurry, hurry and pull them away." In the square, the killers of Jin Hong Min are in a commotion. They scream and want to slap away the pink petals on their bodies. Just a moment ago, they had felt how beautiful these petals were, but now they felt how horrified they were. Chapter 59. Mayan looks at their panicked and frightened appearance. Her line of sight sweeps over the painfully moaning and crying girls on the ground, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a cold smile. Whether it's the previous life or the present, the behavior of these beasts really hasn't changed at all. Don't they like to abuse others so much, letting them experience the despair of being tortured to death? Today, she will definitely fulfill their wish. Her slender, sparkling fingertips leisurely pluck the strings, accompanied by frightened screams and wails. The Tianimo Chin emits a pleasing sound that moves one's heartstrings, just like its master, leisurely enjoying this feast of slaughter. Immersed in her murderous intent, Mayan doesn't notice that in the void, there's a pair of blazing eyes staring at her. In those eyes, there's an unprecedented desire and a domineering determination to win. All his life, he's been disgusted and alienated from women. However, the first time he laid eyes on this woman, his heart couldn't help but throb, and the blood in his whole body is boiling hot. It's as if this woman was born to belong to him, and his originally empty and lonely life is suddenly filled with the appearance of this woman. June Mayan, if it's said that when he first saw her, it was only the vibration of his heartstrings, the desire to win. But now, looking at the shower of pink petals, that bewitchingly smiling girl plucking the strings to kill people, the fire and desire in his heart simply burns to the point that he can't restrain and suppress it. Even in that cold and silent body, there's a part that's crazily clamoring, wanting to possess this woman, wanting to fiercely hold her in his arms, wantonly invading. June Mayan, you're destined to be mine. A low, husky voice spits out from his thin lips, and his pair of black eyes become even more serene and penetrating. In the innermost luxurious residence of Jin Hongmin, Gu Changming leans against the armchair, holding the information he just received in his hands, slightly frowning. Deputy Head, what's wrong? Waiting on the side, Hall Head Ren sees that Gu Changming's expression is strange, and he can't help but ask. Gu Changming frowns slightly. We've lost contact with the people looking for that heaven stage kid. How is that possible? Hall Master Ren exclaimed. Even if he's a heaven rank, he's only a 4 or 5-year-old child. Among the people we sent, there are heaven rank experts and a few peak level earth ranks. Gu Changming impatiently wrinkled the report and said in a low voice, how are Master's injuries? The nominal head of Jin Hongmin is Gu Changming, but in fact, the real master is Gong Qianxue. Everyone in Jin Hongmin, including Gu Changming, is controlled by Gong Qianxue using drafts. Therefore, what Gu Changming and the others feared the most was that they would be severely punished by Gong Qianxue if they didn't do their job well. Hall Master Ren shook his head as a trace of fear flashed across his eyes, because Master has already signed a contract with the Sacred Beast Egg. Once the vital signs of the Sacred Beast Egg disappear, Master will suffer a backlash. This is also the reason why Master is in such a hurry to find that little brat. However, I just received news that the backlash has already begun. Master's injuries are not light, and he is now returning to the Tiandao sect to recuperate. When he thought of the anger and punishment they would have to bear after Gong Qianxue came back, and they still hadn't found the child. Gu Changming and Hall Master Ren's faces turned ugly. Hall Master Ren hopefully said, perhaps Master won't be too angry? After all, we've done our best. Chapter 60. Hee, she won't be angry? Gu Changming revealed a sarcastic smile. That's because you haven't seen the look on her face when she flew into a rage 4 years ago. At that time, she killed quite a few of my trusted subordinates, and even I was seriously injured. Halfway through, Gu Changming cautiously and fearfully swallows the rest of the words back down. His eyes are somewhat deep, as if he had returned to 4 years ago. Gong Qianxue suddenly informed them, asking them to cut out a pregnant woman's fetus and give it to her. At that time, Gu Changming wasn't the nominal head of Jin Hongmin, but he was the main person responsible for that matter. He thought everything should be foolproof. After all, that pregnant girl was so weak, without the slightest bit of resistance. But unexpectedly, in the end, that girl must be dead by now. After all, she was a pregnant woman who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. If she wasn't caught by their encirclement, then she must have escaped deep into the mountains. If she went deep into the mountains, she would definitely die. Gu Changming was so absorbed in his thoughts that he didn't even react when Hall Leader Ren said goodbye and left. But suddenly, Hall Leader Ren's exclamation reaches his ears. Who are you? As soon as the voice falls, there is a loud bang, and a black shadow smashes straight towards him. Blood flowed around his feet and dyed the ground red. Hall Leader Ren widens his eyes and opens his mouth as if he wants to say something, but blood gurgles out of his throat. In a split second, he tilts his head and completely stops breathing. Gu Changming is shocked and angry. He quickly looks up and sees a girl in snow-white clothes, long hair draping over her shoulders, slowly walking into the room. Her feet are full of Hall Leader Ren's flowing blood, but walking in this bloody place. Her whole body is surrounded by an awe-inspiring and inviolable sacred aura. You? Who are you? Why did you trespass into my merry forest, forbidden area? After Gu Changming's shout, the girl opposite him slowly hooks up her lips. That pure and holy as snow temperament instantly changes. as if from a snow lotus of Tunshan Mountain to a fiery and flirtatious Permithatumi, charming and dangerous. I took the liberty to visit in the middle of the night. I hope the head of Jin Hongmin won't take offense. The girl's voice is like ice jade striking each other, sweet and pleasant to listen to. Gu Changming suddenly widens his eyes, incredulously saying, "You? How did you know I am Jin Hongmin? How do I know you're the master of Jin Hongmin?" Mayan chuckles and looks up at him. "Not only do I know that you're the master of Jin Hongmin, but I also know that Jin Hongmin is about to disappear from this world." Being stared at by those eyes that were as cold as snow, Gu Changming inexplicably shuddered. He forced himself to calm down and said, "What do you mean by that?" "The meaning is, today, I will destroy your Jin Hongmin." Gu Changming stared blankly for a moment before bursting into laughter. However, his eyes were burning with rage. "Miss, you sure have a big tone. In this world, there are many people who want to destroy my Jin Hongmin, but no one has ever succeeded. You dare to spout nonsense at such a young age. I would like to see whether you have the ability or not." Before he could finish his words, Gu Changming's attack is already rumbling towards Mayan like a thunderbolt. A powerful and overbearing profound qi emanated from his body. If it was an ordinary person, even if they were standing 10 meters away, they would still tremble under the immense pressure of the profound qi. Gu Changming's eyes were filled with killing intent and confidence. Chapter 61. However, he has full confidence in his own talent and strength. Even Gong Qianxue isn't in his eyes. Gong Qianxue, the #1 genius of the Yinwu continent, is only at the early heaven stage. The girl in front of him looks to be several years younger than Gong Qianxue. How could she be his opponent? Seeing that the palm is already in front of her, Mayan's expression is still calm and unperturbed. Her small jade-like hand slightly lifts, internal force revolves within her body, and she pushes it towards the incoming Gu Changming. With a loud bang, the two people's palms collide. Gu Changming's face shows a proud smile. This woman is stupid, right? She actually dares to directly compete with him in internal force. However, just as the smile overflows the corner of his mouth, it doesn't have time to blossom before it freezes. Gu Changming abruptly retreats several feet away, one hand clutching his chest as he spits out a mouthful of blood. His eyes unwaveringly stare at the girl in front of him, his hoarse voice filled with shock and disbelief. "You're actually a pre-celestial? How is this possible?" "That's right. A teenage girl is actually a pre-celestial expert? How is this possible?" Mayan chuckles unhurriedly, saying, "You're also not bad. After not seeing you for a few years, not only did you become the master of Jin Hongmin, but even your strength has grown to the peak of heaven stage." Listening to her familiar tone, the bewilderment on Gu Changming's face becomes more and more heavy. "Who are you? Why don't you take a guess?" Mayan carelessly smiles. "That's right, by the way. I'll tell Master Gu that I've already cleaned up all the trash outside. Now, the only one left is you. Master Gu, we have a lot of time. We can slowly chat." The girl in front of him speaks lightly, but in Gu Changming's ears, it's like a clap of thunder. "You? What did you say?" He roars, his voice sharp and distorted because of extreme fright. Suddenly, his figure rushes out of the room like lightning, rushing towards the direction of the square. Mayan's expression is quiet. She doesn't have any intention of stopping him. Instead, she calmly follows after him. 1 corpse, 2 corpses, 10 corpses. As more and more corpses appear in front of him, Gu Changming's expression becomes more and more aghast and fearful. His Jin Hongmin has been cultivated for a full 7 or 8 years. With great difficulty, it became the #1 assassin organization in Qiyan country. They were all destroyed by this woman in a single night. "You evil woman! What enmity does my Jin Hongmin have with you that you must be so cruel and merciless?" Gu Changming abruptly turned his head around, his eyes fiercely glaring at the white-clothed girl who was slowly walking towards him. He let out a beast-like roar. The corners of Mayan's mouth gently hooks up, a charming smile on her dainty face, but her eyes are cold as if they can condense into ice slag. "Jin Hongmin and I have an irreconcilable enmity. Ruyu flips her wrist and a long sword appears in her hand. Mayan runs her mysterious energy and lightly slashes. Gu Changming's body suddenly split open, and blood splattered everywhere. "Ah, who the hell are you?" Gu Changming shouted at the top of his lungs as he dodged and counterattacked. Mayan sneers, "Sect Master Ji's memory is really bad. Have you forgotten about me so quickly?" As soon as her voice falls, the second sword slashes out, and a bloody hole appears on Gu Changming's shoulder. He lets out a painful wail, his eyes filled with resentment and fear as he glares at Mayan. Chapter 62. Mayan shows a regretful expression and shakes her head. "What a pity, Master Gu. You've guessed wrong again." With the third slash, Gu Changming's hand that was about to pull out the dagger at his waist suddenly splashes with blood, and half of his palm is sent flying. "Ah, ah, ah!" A mournful scream pierces the sky. Master Ji's scream is really miserable. Mayan unhurriedly says, "Then, I'll give you a hint. 4 years ago, Qiyin Country, Nameless Valley." Gu Changming holds his wrist that's missing half of his palm, his whole body convulsing and trembling. The pain makes him unable to concentrate, but hearing Mayan's words, he suddenly raises his head and stares at her face. Suddenly, those blood-stained pupils suddenly contract. Gu Changming opens his mouth wide and lets out a sharp, ear-piercing scream. "June! June Mayan! You're June Mayan, the pregnant woman 4 years ago." But immediately, he frantically shakes his head and roars hysterically, "Impossible! How could it be you? June Mayan, shouldn't you be dead already?" Mayan steps forward step by step on the blood on the ground. Her smile is gentle and shallow. "If I'm not alive, how can I repay you for your kindness?" Gu Changming looks at the girl's flowery smile, at her eyes that are as dark as a bottomless abyss. His body suddenly trembles like a sieve. This time, real fear rises in his heart. He kneels on the ground and keeps retreating on his knees, his mouth uttering a terrified murmur. "Don't kill me. Gong Chinchua instigated me that year. It has nothing to do with me. It's not me. It's not me who wants to dig out your child." As he retreats, Gu Changming's hand touches his lower back. There hides his final weapon, Jin Hongmin's unique poison, Sky Poison Fantasy Sand. It was refined by the Heavenly Road Sect's master of alchemy and draft, Jin Feng, and was specially gifted to Gong Qianxue. Even a pre-celestial practitioner can't escape the power of the Sky Poison Fantasy Sand. Mayan listens to Gu Changming's pleas for mercy and looks at his hand behind his back. Her eyes narrow and her smile deepens. Seeing that Gu Changming is about to take out the Sky Poison Fantasy Sand, a black shadow suddenly flashes between the two. Bang! After a loud bang, Gu Changming's body expanded violently before suddenly exploding. Blood, flesh, and internal organs splattered everywhere. Mu Yin didn't react for a moment and was almost hit by the flesh and blood. However, a tall and slender figure instantly enveloped her, blocking all the blood that splattered over. A cold and strong masculine aura assaulted her senses, invading all of her senses. Mayan stares blankly. Before she could react, she hears the man's deep and magnetic voice. "June Mayan." It was only a low murmur, but it seemed to contain countless emotions and desires. His warm breath brushed against her ear, bringing with it a tingling sensation. Mu Yin abruptly comes back to her senses. Her figure flashes, and she leaves the man's embrace. He then looked in the direction of Gu Changming. Looking at the man's corpse, which had no bones left, only a pile of broken bones and internal organs was left. Mu Yan's complexion is ashen. "Who told you to kill him?" Her prey, the first prey she had finally caught after waiting for 4 years. He had planned to torture and take revenge, but his plan was ruined just like that. Chapter 63. It turns out that the person in front of her is actually the bastard who took advantage of her in the fog forest. A trace of astonishment flashes through the man's eyes, but it's gone in a flash. He says with a cold face, "He wants to hurt you, and he won't allow anyone to hurt his woman." Mu Yin is so angry that she wants to laugh. "Do you think he can hurt me?" What's more, even if he wants to hurt me, what does it have to do with you? Who are you to me that you should meddle in other people's business? After saying that, Mu Yin feels a burst of discouragement. She decides not to bicker with this lunatic and turns to leave. But before she can take 2 steps, her wrist is clasped and she's pulled back. Her body is embraced into a wide, tight, and scorching embrace. Mu Yin frowns and suddenly turns around to break free. But this time, not only does she not leave like before, her slender waist is embraced and she's brought into his embrace. Immediately after, the man lowers his head and unhesitatingly seizes her soft pink lips. Mu Yin suddenly opens her eyes wide, simply unable to believe everything that's happening at this moment. She's actually been molested by this bastard twice. Mu Yin lifts her unclasped hand and ruthlessly flings it towards the man's face. But her slender jade-like hand is caught in the air by the man. Both of his hands are clasped behind her back, and her body is pressed into his embrace. Mu Yin wants to struggle, but whether it's internal force or even summoning the Tian Mo Qin, there's no response in front of this man. It's as if the entire field is firmly suppressed by his terrible coercion. The man seems to be very intoxicated by the sweet taste of her lips. His kiss is clearly very clumsy, and he doesn't even know that their lips and tongues are intertwined. He just greedily holds those 2 fragrant lips and keeps sucking them. But the imposing manner conveyed by his body is incomparably overbearing, as if Mu Yin is his possession. No resistance, no escape. This kiss lasted for a long time before the man reluctantly let go of Mu Yin. However, his eyes still greedily swept from her delicate brows, to her straight nose, to her earlobes that were as translucent as jade pearls, and finally to her slightly swollen lips. Soon after, he slightly frowns, seemingly very displeased. At this time, Mu Yin is about to explode with anger. She can't wait to tear this guy who has repeatedly molested her into pieces. However, he didn't know where this man came from, but he was actually so powerful. Even though she was a Xiantian master, she had no way to fight back. But who would have thought that the man in front of him would actually use a somewhat dissatisfied and cold voice to say, "Why are you so weak? How are you going to follow me to the Shoshin continent? How are you even qualified to stand by my side? I'll give you 10 years to transcend the tribulation and ascend as soon as possible." Listening to the man's insufferably arrogant nagging, Mayan takes a deep breath, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a shy yet gentle smile. "Excuse me, may I ask who you are?" If someone familiar with Mayan, such as Xiaobao, saw this smile, they would know that his mother is angry. Moreover, he was very angry. Whoever provoked him would definitely be unlucky. Unfortunately, the man in front of her didn't know that. Thus, when he saw the girl's clear and bright smile, his gaze wavered, and a hint of gentleness appeared in his cold expression. Chapter 64. Future Husband? Mayan raises her eyebrows. "Then today you came to propose." The ice-cold thin lips unhesitatingly spit out these 2 words. Then he faintly says in a low, hoarse voice, "I want you to become my Deming Jew's wife." The light in Mayan's eyes becomes darker and darker, her voice slightly soft. "Since it's a marriage proposal, can you let me go first? My hand is hurting from your grip." Deming Jew stares blankly as he hears that, and promptly loosens the hand that was just holding her. His worried gaze falls on that slender wrist of hers. Sure enough, a red mark has appeared on that jade-white wrist. But that red mark isn't a flaw. On the contrary, it adds a kind of beauty that makes people's blood boil. Just like the girl's slightly swollen lips, so tender and alluring, making him unable to restrain himself from wanting to taste more. Deming Jew's eyes gradually darken. Step by step, he approaches Mayan, a flame of desire igniting in his eyes. The girl in front of him has a shallow smile, her eyes gentle, as if full of affection, waiting for him to embrace her. Zheng. A zither string makes a light sound. Deming Jew's pupils shrink, and his figure suddenly retreats like lightning. But in the end, his clothes are still cut open by the zither blade that pierces through the air. There's no longer a trace of gentleness on the girl's face, Only a cold and enchanting smile remains. You want to propose marriage to me? I'm really sorry. Even if all the men in the world were to die, the position of this lady's husband would still not be yours. Ming-ju's complexion is incomparably dark. He suddenly takes a step closer, wanting to pull the girl in front of him back into his arms, not allowing her to escape again. But suddenly, a white light flashes between the two. Immediately after, a small, jade-white hand ruthlessly pushes Ming-ju's direction. Don't bully Nyangqin. Internal force surges, its power overflowing. Originally, this bit of internal force couldn't pose any threat to Ming-ju. However, the moment the tender, white hand touches the corner of his clothes, Ming-ju's body suddenly becomes transparent like a phantom and eventually disappears. Mayan looks at the empty space in front of her, unable to come back to her senses for a long time. So, this scoundrel, just like last time, suddenly appears and suddenly disappears. Mother! Xiaobao's aggrieved voice sounded in her ears. Mu Yin suddenly came back to her senses. She quickly bent down and picked up Xiaobao. She said nervously, Xiaobao, didn't you promise Nyangqin that you would obediently stay in the space and not come out? Xiaobao said with a cold expression, someone is bullying Mother. Even if someone bullies Nyangqin, you can't just come out and take risks. Mayan says with a straight face, otherwise, if something happens to you, do you know how sad and scared Nyangqin would be? Promise me that you'll be obedient in the future. Xiao Bao's delicate little face was still very tense, and his lips were tightly pursed, but he didn't say anything. Mayan's face sinks, and she crouches down to pull her son away from her arms. Jun Machin, if you're so disobedient, Nyangqin will be angry. Hearing this, Xiaobao's tightened lips finally began to change. Her big blue eyes were filled with sparkling tears. The little child's face was full of grievance and unease, but he stubbornly gritted his teeth and refused to let his tears fall. Xiaobao, don't let anyone bully Mother, I won't. His voice was hoarse and choked with sobs, and his tears finally fell uncontrollably. Chapter 65. Seeing her son's tears, Mayan's heart aches so much that it's practically dripping blood. All education and criticism were thrown to the back of her mind. She took her son into her arms and softly said, Don't cry, Xiaobao. Mother isn't angry, and I won't get hurt. Mother is just afraid that you will encounter danger, because Xiaobao is the most important person in the world to me. I'm sorry, Mother's tone was too harsh just now. Xiaobao, can you forgive Mother? Xiaobao hugged Mu Yan's neck and buried his entire head in her bosom. He nodded gloomily, then said in a low and hoarse voice, Nyangqin is also the most important, the most important. A smile appears on Mayan's face, and she carries her son towards the entrance of Jin Hongmin. For some reason, that peerlessly handsome face suddenly appeared in his mind. In both her past and present life, Mayan has never seen anyone more handsome or more charming than this man. Unfortunately, he turned out to be a psychopath who would casually take advantage of others and had some mental issues. If he wasn't a lunatic, why would he suddenly propose marriage to a stranger? Ming-ju, the Xiaoxian continent, for Mayan, that really is an incomparably distant place. I don't think we'll ever meet again, right? Touching her red and swollen lips, a trace of annoyance flashes through Mu Yan's heart. Soon after, she throws it to the back of her mind and concentrates on teasing her son. Up in the ninth heaven, a certain Jun Shang, whose marriage proposal was rejected and who swore that, even if all the men in the world died, she wouldn't marry him, recalled everything that had just happened and was about to go mad with anger. Han Ye's figure also flashes in the cosmos mirror. As soon as he came out, he felt the low pressure and cold wind around him. It was as if everything within 100 li was going to be frozen into a 10,000 li glacier. Han Yi shudders all over. He tumbles and crawls to kneel in front of Xinyuan Dijuan, Jun Shang. Ming-ju gnashes his teeth and says, In Xiaoxian continent, those women who cry and shout that they want to marry Bin Jun, are they fake? Yes, it's true. Han Yi says in a trembling voice, as long as Jun Shang says it, there's no woman in this world that can refuse you. Yes, no woman in the world could reject him. However, The little woman that he had taken a fancy to had rejected him in such a straightforward manner. Was it because his strength was not strong enough, or his status was not high enough, or he did not have enough treasures? This woman, this June Mayan, where did she get the courage to actually dare to refuse him? She even said that she would never marry him even if all the men in the world died. Thinking of this, Demingju simply has the urge to destroy the entire Yinwu continent. Han Yi coughs lightly, risking his life to say, June Shang, Miss Mayan is your destined daughter. She's different from other women. You can't move Miss Mayan's heart. Demingju looks over coldly. That cold and murderous gaze seemed to be saying that as long as he said one wrong word, only death awaited him. Han Yi swallows, continuing, if you really like Miss Mayan, you should first pursue her. Let her be tempted by you. How could you directly propose marriage? And there wasn't even a betrothal gift. If I were Miss Mayan, I wouldn't agree. Han Yi silently ridicules in his heart, but he doesn't dare to show the slightest bit of it on his face. He says with a sincere face, therefore, June Shang, what you need to do now is to make Miss June fall in love with you first. Chapter 66. Demingju stares blankly. A suspicious blush seems to creep onto his cheeks. But on the surface, his expression was cold and unconcerned as he said, Isn't it natural that she likes Bin June? Yes, June Shang, you are wise and mighty. Your divine might is unparalleled. It's only natural that Miss Mayan likes you. But that also requires a process, right? Demingju gives him a sidelong glance, motioning for him to continue. Han Yi smiles sheepishly. How to make Miss Mayan like you? Naturally, you have to give her what she likes, do what she wants you to do, and by all means, don't go against her. For example, directly eliminate the enemy that Miss Mayan has been waiting for several years to retaliate against. If he were Miss Mayan, he would also wish that he could chop up the bad guy. Demingju's eyebrows are wrinkled to the point that they could squeeze a fly to death. He remembers the little figure that suddenly appeared beside him in Mayan. Although the time was too short and he couldn't clearly see who it was, the fluctuation of the aura gave him an indescribable feeling. As a result, his soul body, which was maintained through the heaven and earth mirror, instantly collapsed and returned. No matter who it is, they actually dared to disturb his and Mayan's time alone. They simply deserve to die. Han Yi kneels on one side, keeping quiet out of fear. It's only after a long time that she hears the man's cold and dignified voice. Build the transmission array to the Yinwu continent. It must be completed within 10 days. Han Yi abruptly lifts his head, looking at Demingju in disbelief. June Shang, you want to seal your powers and descend upon the Yinwu continent with your real body? That is the lowest level continent without any spiritual power. When June Shang goes there, 90% of his cultivation will be sealed. Moreover, he wouldn't be able to return to the Shoshin continent in a short period of time. As soon as he looks up, he meets the man's deep blue eyes. Han Ye's mind immediately shivers and he bows, Yes, master. His voice is resolute and calm, but Han Ye's heart is already in a perilous storm. Although he already knew that June Shang attached great importance to Miss Mayan, he didn't expect that he would actually attach such importance to Miss Mayan that his real body would descend upon the Yinwu continent. At this moment, Han Yi still doesn't know that because of this suggestion of his, Demingju's long road to chasing after his wife has just begun. Qiyin Country, Xi'an. In the largest restaurant in the city, the waiter hurriedly ran up and down, bringing fragrant and steaming dishes into the room. In the large private room, the huge round table was already filled with food and wine. The amount of these dishes was enough for more than 10 people to enjoy. However, in the entire private room, there was only a beautiful girl in white and a little boy who looked like he had walked out of a painting. After delivering the last dish, the waiter stood there hesitantly. Honestly, he felt that a young girl and a little boy wouldn't be able to finish so many dishes. What if these two people didn't finish eating and didn't want to pay? Thus, the waiter looked at the white-clothed girl and smiled sheepishly as he gave a price. Miss, would you like to pay the bill yourself? or wait for someone to pay the bill? The young girl and boy sitting here were naturally Mu Yin and Xiao Bao. After they destroyed Jin Hongmin in Qi Yin country, they leisurely came to Xi'an country. Because she felt guilty for making her baby son cry, Mu Yin planned to treat Xiao Bao to a good meal. Hearing the waiter's words, Mu Yin didn't even lift her head, minding her own business and leisurely eating. Chapter 67. He sees that pink and jade-carved little baby jump down from the chair, walks over to him with his short legs, and raises his hand to hand over a banknote. Just as the waiter is startled, an icy childish voice comes over with impatience. No need to keep the change. Bring some more drinks over. The waiter absent-mindedly takes the banknote from a 4-year-old child's hand. Seeing the price and the clear stamp of the largest bank, he suddenly feels dizzy. When the waiter walks away in a daze, Xiao Bao scampers back to Mu Yan's side. But he doesn't return to his own chair. Instead, he climbs onto Mu Yan's chair, squeezing the two of them into the same chair, sitting next to each other. Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a shallow smile. She simply picks up her son, puts him on her lap, and gives him food to eat. Ever since Jin Hongmin made Xiao Bao cry, Xiao Bao has been particularly clingy to her. Although he always has an ice-cold little face, he must nestle in her arms when he sleeps, stay close to her when he eats, and raise his little head to be kissed by Mu Yin every 3 meals a day. This adorable little appearance simply melts Mu Yan's heart into water, and there's also a faint heartache. Thus, she can't wait to give all the best things in the world to Xiao Bao. Mu Yin picks up a fragrant chicken leg and is about to put it into Xiao Bao's bowl. Suddenly, there's a flash of white light. Without waiting for Mu Yin to react, the chicken leg, including the skin and bones, has completely disappeared. Mu Yin blinks. She sees that on the huge round dining table, there's a snow-white fluffy rabbit that she doesn't know when. The rabbit's appearance is very silly and adorable, making people want to hug it and rub it. But when it opens its mouth, the dish in front of it instantly becomes empty. Apart from the clean and shiny plate, there's not even a drop of juice or ingredient left. While Mu Yin is dumbstruck, the rabbit turns around and has already wiped out most of the dishes on the table. The small mouth slightly opens, and it seems to burp. Then it continues, "Continue your sister." Mu Yin grabs the rabbit by the nape of its neck, lifting it to her eyes and coldly says, "I think you're tired of living, right? I invited my son to eat, and you dare to seize it? Do you believe that I will really turn you into stir-fried rabbit meat?" The rabbit's beady eyes darted around, and with a kick of its hind legs, it played dead without any hesitation. Mu Yin was so angry that she wanted to laugh. She picked it up and looked at left and right, then asked Xiao Bao, "Did this stupid rabbit become bigger?" Originally, it was only the size of 2 palms, but now it was almost the size of 3 palms. Moreover, the rabbit's entire body was round, making it look even more adorable. Xiao Bao nodded and said, "After the rabbit ate the sacred beast egg, it slowly grew up. It grew up after eating the sacred beast egg, which meant that the sacred beast egg had already been digested by the rabbit. And according to what Xiao Bao said, Gong Qinxue had already signed a contract with the sacred beast egg, and now she must have suffered a backlash." Thinking of this, the corners of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a faint smile, and her attitude towards the rabbit in her hand also becomes a little better. However, when he thought about how the rabbit had only grown a little fatter after eating an entire sacred beast egg, without any changes at all, he felt extremely depressed. Just how big was this guy's appetite? He wouldn't go bankrupt if he let his son raise this thing as a pet, right? After eating, Mu Yin leads Xiao Bao out of the restaurant. As for the rabbit, it had already eaten and drunk to its heart's content and ran back into the space to sleep. Xiao Bao looks up and asks Mu Yin, "Nyang Qin, where are we going next?" Chapter 68. Because of the backlash from the sacred beast egg, Gong Qinxue rested in the Heavenly Road sect for several days. Because of Jin Feng's pills, her body finally started to improve. However, just as the anger and unwillingness in her heart slowly subsided, she suddenly received a piece of shocking news. Jin Hongmin was destroyed. The nail she placed in Qi Yin country with great difficulty was pulled out just like that. Gong Qinxue was so angry that her eyes were about to split open. On the same day, she set off for Qiyin country, Xi'an City. Several men in black kneeled in front of Gong Qinxue, keeping quiet out of fear. Gong Qinxue suppressed her anger and asked in a deep voice, Jin Hongmin, what the hell is going on? Gu Chaiming is an expert at the peak of heaven stage, and I have spent a lot of manpower and material resources to train the assassins of Jin Hongmin. How could he be exterminated overnight? We don't know either. But by the time we arrived, Jin Hongmin was already full of corpses. Not a single living mouth, sect Master Gu even more. Not even his bones were left. We searched for a long time, but we couldn't find any trace of the murderer. We only know that they were injured by a strange sword qi, and they didn't struggle at all before they died. When Gong Qinxue heard this, she finally couldn't bear it anymore. She lifted her leg and kicked fiercely. What's the use of this consort raising a bunch of trash like you? Princess, spare me, spare me. The black-robed men prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling as they begged for mercy. It wasn't until Gong Qinxue has vented a bit of her anger that one of the black-clothed men looks up with trepidation. Princess, please calm your anger. Although Jin Hongmin was not exterminated, there is good news from the Ghost City. Good news? Seeing that Gong Qinxue was interested, the black-clothed man heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly replied, It's a message from Commander Yen. He said that he found a talent that caught your eye and asked you to come and receive him when you have time. Sure enough, after hearing this news, Gong Qinxue's eyes lit up. Now that she has lost Jin Hongmin, she urgently needs to replenish her strength. It couldn't be better for Yen Lai to send her news at this time. As for the person who dared to destroy her Jin Hongmin, humph, one day she will make this person pay a painful price. Miss, do you also want to enter the Ghost City? Mu Yin is pulling her son along as they line up at the entrance of the Ghost City, waiting to pay the 100 gold coins required to enter. Suddenly, a man's voice came from behind. Mu Yin looks back and sees a simple and honest-looking middle-aged uncle. She can't help but reveal a shallow smile, yeah? AI, don't tell me you don't know what kind of place the Ghost City is? The middle-aged man showed a worried and disapproving expression. How can a delicate little girl like you enter this place? I don't see any Xin Qi fluctuations on your body. If you get bullied inside, you won't even have a chance to resist. What's more, you're actually bringing along such a small child. Sai, listen to this uncle's advice. You'd better leave quickly. Ghost City, this is a mysterious, powerful, and bloody lawless place. It was mysterious because no one knew who the boss of the Ghost City was. They only know that the Ghost City has existed for as long as many people in Yinwu continent can remember. It's powerful and bloody because the Ghost City pursues the principle of the law of the jungle. Here, everything can be solved with force and money. The laws and regulations of the outside countries are not suitable here. Chapter 69. The only thing that the people inside can't violate is the rules of the Ghost City, and the ghost envoys who are responsible for maintaining the order of the Ghost City. Therefore, Mu Yin can hear that this uncle's reminder is absolutely out of good intentions. That's because low-level ancient martial practitioners can't see through the internal force fluctuations of high-level people. Mu Yin is in the pre-celestial realm, Xiao Bao is also in the heaven stage, but the uncle behind her is only in the profound stage. The two of them are also so young. The uncle naturally thinks that they are ordinary people who can't use internal force. Mu Yin's expression is still gentle. She shakes her head and says, Thank you for the reminder, uncle. The words of thanks are spoken, but there's no intention of withdrawing. The middle-aged uncle originally wanted to say a few more words, but Mu Yin has already reached the end of the line. After paying 100 gold coins, Mu Yin quickly leads Xiao Bao into the Ghost City. Xi'an City's Ghost City is divided into two parts, the Exchange and the Colosseum. As soon as they enter, a flourishing, extravagant atmosphere mixed with internal force fluctuations hits them in the face. Most of the people who can live freely and happily here are big and tall men. Occasionally, there are a few women who either look valiant and majestic or have powerful men by their side to protect them. Therefore, As soon as this strange combination of Mu Yin and Xiao Bao appears, many people's gazes converge on them. One of the shirtless men looks at Mu Yan's tender and beautiful face, and can't help but lick the corner of his mouth with his tongue, his eyes revealing a greedy and fierce glint. He walks up in 2 or 3 steps, blocking Mu Yan's path. "Beauty, did you come to the Ghost City alone? Your courage isn't small." Mu Yan shows a bashful smile. "Yeah, I've always been very courageous." "Ha, little beauty, you're interesting. This uncle likes this bright red little mouth. How about this? As long as you sleep with this uncle for a night, this uncle will guarantee that you can safely walk out of this ghost city." As he says that, his fat, lecherous hand is already grabbing towards Mu Yan's face. The middle-aged uncle who came in behind Mu Yan instantly shows an unbearable expression, turning his head sideways. He doesn't understand why this little girl is so stubborn, insisting on entering the ghost city. Now, not to mention going out in one piece, whether she can survive is a problem. But even if he can't bear it, with his strength, he simply can't save this pair of brother and sister. However, before the brawny man's perverted hand could touch Mayan's face, all of a sudden, the plump body shot up into the sky. Before anyone could react, he flew out in a semicircle and crashed heavily into a pillar. The entire place was deathly silent for a moment. Everyone looked at the unconscious brawny man, then looked at Mu Yin and Xiao Bao. The young girl was still smiling, her figure slender, as if she could not stand up to the wind. The little boy she was holding still had a straight face. There wasn't even a trace of expression on his handsome little face. So, what happened just now? Mu Yin doesn't care about the thoughts of the people around her. She leads Xiao Bao and continues to walk towards the beast-fighting coliseum. Just as he took a few steps forward, another person stepped forward. It was a man at the peak of the profound stage. He reached out and arrogantly blocked Mu Yan's path. However, this person was even more miserable than the burly man just now, because he didn't even have the chance to speak before the impatient little Bao grabbed him and tossed him out. Bang! A loud noise shook the pillars and beams, causing the dust on them to rustle down. It also woke up the surrounding people. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.